Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Gimmick, your monthly fix. I am the Canadian Nightmare, Travis Snail. I'm joined
Hi,
by,
I'm the story finisher, David.
yeah, we got lots to talk about. Last time we were here, we talked about WrestleMania Night 2, and man, already obviously a lot changes in wrestling, but whether it's title changes, whether it's people changing their minds, certain lawsuits, whether it is footage being shown, there's a lot of stuff. So yeah, we're gonna try our best to cover the past month. Our kind of breakdowns. We're gonna talk about Backlash that just happened yesterday, and we'll talk about AEW overall the month of that because the whole Elite storyline. I feel like I don't know. You can't be somewhere in the middle. You either gotta love it or hate it. But we'll break that down and Double or Nothing and Dynasty. We are going to because as you can hear, Espo is not here. He's gonna be back either end of June or beginning of July. He's got to focus on his studies. So he's doing the right thing. Being a good guy.
Being a responsible adult.
Yeah, he should. So, but yeah, once those are done, he'll be back. But he's working on them now. You can follow his Twitter thread, but he's like, hey, what are some matches? So we'd given him some, but we're going to reveal our personal top 10 favorites and the criteria for that. And then, yeah, so we're going to just get right down to it because we got a lot. Obviously, we got a month to cover. So let's break down maybe the biggest fight of this weekend. Kendrick and Drake, what do you think?
The thing that has actually kept me up more than wrestling this week.
I
They
saw.
decide to drop at insane times.
Oh, I saw your feed. Yeah, I saw your feed. It's just crazy the back and forth and like, oh, album here and cover there. So no, we won't get that. All I'll ask David is on the spot, and if you don't know anything, come back at the end. What is for people that don't know? What's the wrestling feud you would compare this to out of all the annals of history in the WWF, even WCW, TNA? Like, is there a particular feud that you go, that's the one? Because I feel like the obvious one people jump to is like Sean HBK, but I feel like most people are like, well, Kendrick's kind of pretty far ahead, where it never felt like that with Sean Brett, right? It was always like they're like neck and neck. But what's your perspective on that?
I'm going to go a little bit different. I am going to go Hogan Savage for two reasons.
Oh, that's a
You've
good
got
one.
the friends turned to enemies, and you've got
Yeah,
the better artistry versus the more popular.
absolutely. Yeah, that no, I didn't even think Hogan Savage. That's a good one. The only thing missing is like a lady in between them to break it up. But they're speaking enough about ladies, so we're not getting to that because I
Yeah.
don't feel like getting sued. But it's been an interesting Twitter weekend between wrestling, that sports playoffs. It's lots happening in the entertainment world. So yeah, let's get into the draft here. So our personal draft, Espos, he's been keeping track. God love him. So we had lots of happened here, and luckily, David, you're still in third right now, but a big comeback because there's been some defenses. So you're at 66 points. I'm at 84 points, and S Bubs is at 90 points with at first place. He got plus 85. He had a really good backlash for him because that 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 little kid, man, he got Cody Rhodes, and he's gonna main event like almost every pay per view this year. That bastard, like
Yeah. I am lucky with the fact that I have Damian Priest, so that's going to get
yes,
me some. And
at least
now
until
with
Clash, you're good till
yeah,
Clash.
with Becky and Bianca, that's also going to help. So just come on, Gunther winning King of the Ring.
Yeah, I will talk about that, of course. I think you got that lock. Yeah, for me, and I think you'll overtake me soon because I think Money in the Bank is the next time that we can drop and make some changes. I lost Rhea and I lost Seth because Seth had to get his surgery, so now he's out a minimum, they say 6 to 8 months, so he's
Yeah.
gone. But it's like for me, it's like I'm not trying to reveal my strategy, but it's like, do you drop him because do I want one of you guys to pick him up come Rumble season? No, like that's a tough thing. But now he's just sitting there doing nothing for me. And Rhea, like what bad time? My this is like a you talk about NFL drafts, we talk about WWE drafts. My 1 and 2 pick down. Like, like thank goodness they had good manias, and Seth was on two of them, and at least. My silver lining about Rhea is, well, she didn't lose the title, and we've decided that if you vacate the title, we don't lose points because it's
Yeah.
not really a choice. So there's that. Her injury is not as bad, but still, like what I worry about Rhea is they're like, oh, they're gonna look into it, and it's just been silent since then. So I worry it's gonna be like the MGF thing where they're gonna wait and be like, oh, maybe she doesn't need surgery, and then after I'll be like, no, you still need surgery because MGF that was the rumor in March with Tony Khan, and then I was like, no, you're gonna have surgery. So we'll see. But yeah, S Bub's still winning right now. So we'll see what happens. But we got some good picks. You got Damien making a good comeback for you. I got Jade holding it down for me, and Bond Breaker, who's just going to keep destroying jobbers, I think, for a little bit. So we'll catch
Yeah.
up to him.
And I'm lucky. Anytime you get points with Jade, I get points with Bianca. So
Oh yeah.
it
And I
evens out there.
And I
So
think we got that for a while. Like, I'm not trying to long term book, but I could see them not break them up to like the Rumble this year, and then to me, that's the Mania match is Jade and Bianca. I wanted Bianca and Rhea, but just because they've done the Jade and Bianca thing now, I feel like that's the way to go. You keep them together, you break them up. Maybe they'll do it at a different pay per view, but
yeah.
we all three of us wanted the tag team, and I guess we can start with Backlash. We wanted that tag team, and they're doing it, and I think last night it showed overall. But before we get to the specific match, what did you think of the event? They said it was the largest gate in arena history, which is crazy because there was only 11,000 people there. So those tickets must have been a pretty penny they're charging, because they've been to many crowds that are bigger than 11,000 in arenas, but they must have been charging a lot. But the crowd was, we got a preview on SmackDown, but the crowd was super fired up, and it was tons of fun to see.
That crowd was on fire, and I knew coming into it just based upon how they were on SmackDown that it was going to be a good crowd.
Yeah.
But that crowd helped take this PLE over the top. Like, it was already good in my opinion. It surpassed my expectations for the pure wrestling and storyline aspect of it. There was a moment that just shocked me that I did not expect at all. So, it gets points for that. But the crowd helped just take it over the top. I mean, from the moment Randy Orton comes out and they're all just going in on his theme, and even he has to stop and give them props for that.
Yeah. Well, that was the biggest thing I said to you guys in our Discord, was it felt like WrestleMania as far as the entrances, because there's one moment they just said Kevin Owens, he's out there for an additional minute and a half just soaking in the crowd, and they didn't end up doing them. Like, oh man, every babyface is going to have this mega long entrance because they're just going to be soaking up the crowd. But yeah, it's funny because I saw a lot of, that was a big debate on wrestling Twitter, was the card being like, is this like a lackluster crowd for, or a lackluster card for this crowd? There's so many people, it's only 5 matches. I'm still kind of fine with that. I do agree you could have added one. I think the IC title not being there, especially because Sami Zayn, also from Montreal, has that, kind of some tie to being French and France and all that. All like they kind of had the similar pop as Kevin Owens. So, but WWE they're following what Triple H would do with NXT. They like, for those B shows, the 5 card matches. NXT was always that, right? And they were around this, that 245, 3 hours. So to me, I don't think it was underwhelming. I think all the matches were good. I think one over delivered. You got some surprises. You got some title changes. And again, it's kind of like we talked about the WrestleMania cast, which thanks for everyone checking that out. That was a top 10 episode last month for us. So thanks to everybody. But we said like there was a lot of predictable stuff on night 2, but that's not always bad. So for me, I saw lots of people complain about the Jey Uso thing of, oh, they should have pulled the trigger. Between that and the women's tag, it was good. But people were like, oh, Triple H here, it's going to be very predictable. But it's like, for me, that's like, I don't need everything to be predictable, but that's a good thing because it's like storytelling and making sense. It's like Vince would go sometimes too far. On the other hand, like, well, we got to swerve them. It's like, not always.
Yeah. You
So
don't need, sometimes the predictable is good, and it's enjoying the ride to get to the predictable. Like,
Yeah.
I knew coming in there that Damien was going to retain. He's a Triple H guy. He just got the belt. Like, you got to make him look strong. Plus, it plays into his storyline with the Judgment Day. So then it was just, okay, so how are we going to get here was the question.
Yeah, and we talked back and forth. Is it because they did the Bloodline tease, which we'll talk about everything? How did you feel about the As S Bubsy's watch and the phenomenal chatter phenomenon? Singing and wrestling for me, I'm very mixed on, because I've been there live and I've been there to the WrestleMania post Raw shows where sometimes it's fun and then sometimes you got people just spamming it. And for me, the singing was fine with AJ. I think sometimes it went overboard during the match because you lose cadence of the crowd in the match. Like, AJ and Cody are doing like the yeah boo spots, and then when they're singing, it's like, oh, you've lost some of that. So I think I like moments, but I could do like 25% less of the singing. But the crowd was having a good time, and they should get a Mania, or like Triple H was talking about last night, like a stadium show, because they proved okay they could bring it, and it helps even the B-rate shows that maybe somewhere else in some crowd in America, Canada, this show would have been all right. But for France, that hasn't had a pay-per-view in ever, if at all, it raised it. So
Yeah. No, the singing didn't bother me that much. There were times where I was like, okay, the crowd is just being the crowd. They're
yeah.
taking over, but it was never, I mean, it's not Cesaro with the beach ball levels
Yeah.
of the crowd taking over.
Oh, I was in that crowd and I hated it. I hated it. I hate what chance for the most part. I think there's the odd time you can do it, but it's just sometimes again, it's all about the amount of it and stuff. But let's talk about the first match, our first surprise. You got the new bloodline, Sol Sikoa, Tomatonga versus Randy Orton's KO. We already talked about the entrances. They did a switch up to make it a street fight, which I thought was the right call. Not that I didn't want to see just a pure tag team match, but felt like the crowd was ready for something like that. And there was no other like stip matches on this card either. So I was like, okay, I liked the way it was set up of their brawling. They just like, hey, they're not going to stop, but just whatever. No rules, had the fight. And I thought this was like a really entertaining opening. To me, it's like a, like 3 1/4, 3 7/5, just because it's not gonna be anything amazing, but you get what you want. And then we got a surprise, but not the one we were expecting. But overall, I thought it was a good match and a good like outing for the new bloodline, but also Tonga, because this was his coming out party, right? And I think he showed he can hang with these guys. And I really like the edge of the character they're giving him. It's similar to New Japan, but a bit more of like an unpredictable sort of lackey hitman in a way where he could pop off at any moment. Where Solo, he was always like, well, you knew Roman had to give him the go ahead, right? Roman would do that.
Yeah.
Where Tama looks like he's that guy in the heist in the Dane Cook joke that pulls out the gun and just starts killing random civilians. Like that's Tama Tonga and that look he's giving. So I think it was a good showing overall for them.
They put on what was, in my opinion, necessary for Tama's first match, because
Yes.
Tama's been in New Japan this entire time. He hasn't had a televised WWE match. Everyone talks about how the style is very much different in WWE. So just letting him have this match where it's a little bit of in-ring work, but mostly it's in the crowd. You guys are just going. I mean, he's been a heel for the majority of his career. It's only in his latter run after the break off from the Bullet Club that he started to have a little bit of a face run in New Japan, but he was a heel for most of his career. So this is perfect for him to just be that brawler, be that over the top wrestler that he can be, and give him some moments in that WWE space without going, here's a ring, here's a high-end storyline, show us what you can do.
Yeah, I think he's showing that right now. He didn't flounder, So, what do you think? Because everyone was expecting, after WrestleMania, we heard, oh, Fatu signed. It's within weeks. Then it's like, oh, they might hold off. But we didn't get Fatu. We got Tonga Loa. Their names together are always like always a mouth twister. But we got Loa, who when you put in the Discord, I completely forgot was Camacho in WWE. That I completely erase that out of my mind. But this is like what we talked about, where I had a theory, because obviously Meltzer's been memed on a lot lately of getting things wrong. He's always gotten stuff wrong, but he can be reliable. But the fact that lately they've been doing a better job of surprises, I do think there has been some on purpose putting stuff out there to see who is a mole and then who they can trust. Because eventually Meltzer did share that he was signed the same time as Tama. That should have came out. The fact that nobody caught that, him, Fightful, PWI, like nobody else got, oh yeah, like he's signed, they're going to do GOD or, whatever, or GOD, whatever their version's going to be. The fact, like a good, genuine surprise, I think he's good for this storyline. I think that's about his breach as being a tag guy, and he has knee injuries. And of course there's some stuff online. You see like, he's not always the crispest in the ring. He has some certain moves that you go, oh, I don't know. But for this, I think he's another good kind of heater to add. And again, even joking, he botched his debut, and you see the crowd, he forgot to pull the ref's leg. But I think for this, and we're going to get Usos and them, lots of good potential. And it was, again, always fun when they can keep a genuine surprise.
Yeah, it was shocking to me. I did not expect it. And it's and I even tweeted this, it's been a long time since WWE has genuinely surprised me. There's been moments of could they, couldn't they, or there's the slightest chance, but we don't think that can happen. Then it happens and you're pleasantly surprised, like with Punk coming back.
Yes,
it was
Punk,
hey, we never know. Punk could show up at any time just to
Yeah.
be Punk, and when it happens, you're still like, oh my god, they're actually doing it. But with
Mhm.
this one, it was I did not expect it, but I actually think it's the right call because with Fatu, you can bring him in and you can say, hey, he's part of the bloodline. He is part of this dynasty.
Mhm.
But with Tangaloa, you can say that is Tama's brother. That is his tie, not
Yeah.
just he's also part of the Samoan dynasty, but no, this is his brother, so that's why he's bringing him in. Especially since Solo's currently having issues with his brothers, to bring in another one would be like, are you going to turn on this one? Is this one going to turn on you? This time, bringing in Tama's brother, it's like, okay, I'm fortifying my new bloodline with people that I know I can trust.
And how? So where do you think this is all going to factor in? Because we talked about we never did the Raw after Mania. We had the Raw come. We haven't seen Roman since then. We got Paul saying he hasn't talked to Roman since WrestleMania, which is interesting. Rock did this whole, hey, I'm gonna go away for a while, but then I'm gonna come back to get you. You know, he's talking to Cody. I like the segment. I know that segment was mixed. Some people thought it went on too long, was awkward. To me, it was like that was the point. It was like to me two gunslingers that want to both pull their gun, but they're not going to pull their gun, so they're going to wait. And even the Rock being weird, like well, obviously we've heard a lot of reports of Rock being weird lately, but in the promo, like I liked him being kind of uncomfortable, like let me hold it. But the thing is, we were talking about this last night, where no Rock, it all makes sense because you got Solo, you know, the Gorillas, and then Fatu. That's four. And on the Bloodline, you could do Roman, Usos, and you could bring Sammy back in, right, to do that sort of Bloodline. My whole thing is the second the Rock gets back, that's where it makes it not a problem, because I think that just gives them more opportunity. But then it's like a 5-on-4 situation. I'm not sure. Do you get in a situation? I'm not saying we're getting Survivor Series or even a tag match, but is that a situation where you get the moment where like a Cody and Roman have to work together to go against the Rock? Because that's the thing. The Rock, if because I think the Rock will come back and they're going to reveal that Solo's been kind of doing this under the Rock's purview, right? That's why they're on purpose trying to make it seem like, is it Roman? Is it not? Roman's going to come back, reveal it's not him, and then it'll be the bigger reveal of, no, it's not him, it's someone else. Because I just don't see them making Solo the guy right now. Like, it'd be very odd to have the Rock wanting to be the guy, Roman wanting to be the guy, and then all of a sudden Solo also being like, well, I want to be the guy too. I just feel like it would stand out. Solo would sink in that equation, like against Roman and Rock. So he's a better B player. So in your mind, like, what is the kind of, I know we know the end goal is probably like a, you know, Rock Cody, then the Rock Roman, but just the actual bloodline civil war, what do you do when you get a Rock back? Or is it just that they just kind of ignore that and they just do like the Solos bloodline and Roman? What do you see right now? Because there's lots of stuff floating around, and I don't think like Loa was in our plans right now, right? We didn't really function for that, because like, oh, Fatu and the Rock, that's four, that makes perfect sense. But now there's more members than we even thought were coming. So
I think that it all really depends on The Rock, but I could see short term being Solo stacks his bloodline. I could see Gorillas of Destiny going and getting the tag titles. I
yeah,
could see them making themselves strong. If The Rock is going to come back, then I see it as a situation where the rest of the bloodline folds back in on itself. They will start off against each other, then they will come together under the purview of The Rock, and he will truly be the final boss. And then you're going to have them versus Cody, and that's where you end The Rock at that. You end the final boss moment at that. If The Rock's not coming back and they can't strike a deal in that, then it will be Roman's bloodline versus Solo's bloodline.
yeah.
And eventually, yes, someone's going to have to be quote unquote head of the table match.
Yeah, which is like, it's just so funny if that's the, like, I agree with you, that would be the route. But if the head of the table match is Roman and Solo, man, that is such a, like, I like Solo, and I we've seen some potential out of him, so I'm not saying they couldn't bring it there, but it's just when you look at that versus The Rock, it's such like a lesser than. So I'd be interested to see, because that's the big thing. It is The Rock, right? Because even with Mania, it's like when The Rock gets back and that's a report that, oh, he wants to do Cody. Like, we do live in a world now where it's funny enough, we might not get Rock and Roman ever.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's a possibility because what if Rock does Cody and that's it, or Rock gets big time injured and he does go, okay, we're not going to happen. I know everyone has this scenario of like, oh, we're going to get Rock at SummerSlam or Survivor Series, do Cody and then Roman Mania. It's like, I don't think so. I think Rock is a WrestleMania season guy and he's done it before, but I just feel like he's a busy guy. So in a perfect world, that's the where we go. Like, I've seen the cards and I do agree, like, Seth Punk, Rock, Roman, Cody, Randy, like that to me is like, oh, that's the route you go. It is interesting to me to see if Rock doesn't let's say that's the card. What do you have main event night 1 and night 2 between those? Don't forget about the women right now because we don't know what they would do. What would you have main event night 1, night 2? Because either way, somebody's not happy with that
Yeah,
3 equation.
you.
Because then if Cody does a main event in his first year's champ, that's a bad message of like, well, you're not last. If Punk doesn't main event, then Punk probably never gets that main event. And you know The Rock's not going to not main event. Even though I never understand that because him and Hogan were at the main event and it was still the biggest deal that night, right? So it's like, that's a very tricky situation with those 6 men. Randy doesn't care. Randy will do whatever. He's a game player.
So for the long term storytelling, I think you have to have Punk main event night 1.
Mm-hmm.
You have Cody main event night 2, and with Punk winning whatever match he has, then you set up kind of a stare down between the two. Like, I'm here, I'm the guy versus I'm the guy. And then it becomes even though we're on separate brands, it's a rivalry of who's the guy without ever having to truly cross paths. So you leave them both not like, oh, well, you were night 1, I'm night 2. It's,
Yeah.
I'm showing you I'm the guy, now watch what I do versus what you've been doing.
So you would put, if it was those 3 matches, you would put Rock and Roman not main event, just like in the middle of the card and fire it up.
Yep.
I would personally, because I agree that for the most time, I think there's like the odd retirement match. I know some might say the head of the table could be like the Streak equivalent. I think the Streak had that. I always am put the titles last because you put that importance. In my opinion, I think I really don't know. I think if anyone would get the boot, it would be Punk and Seth, if I had to guess, because I think with, Punk's being a company guy, but at the end of the day, are they going to put Punk's needs over Rock and Roman? I don't know if they will. Hopefully, just Rock and Roman would be game to be like, we don't got to be the main event. Let's just steal the show. Like, that should be the mentality of, we can be like Rock and Hogan, where it doesn't matter if we're like the 4th matchup. Everyone's going to talk about us,
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Let's see. RJ says, I'd like to see both matches, honestly, but I feel like the money match is Cody and Rock, which I agree personally now. Like, Dave, let's say Triple H comes to you and say, hey, Rock says he wants one more match. He can only do one. Which route do you go? Do you do Cody or do you Roman?
I do Roman.
You do? Okay, you're on the other side of it.
I do Roman because for me that is a more, you've got your long term with that.
That's true. Yeah.
For
Big
Cody,
legacy.
it's okay. We did the match. We've been talking about the match. We did the match. But where does either man go after that? Rock goes off into the sunset. Cody gets to say for 2 weeks about how he beat The Rock, and then he's on to the next. Where
He'll say more than 2 weeks.
where with Roman, it is the true, I am the head of the table. I am the new final boss. And then you can set, if Roman wants to keep his part-time schedule, you can set him up kind of like you did a Brock, where he is the new final boss, where he comes in, he does his thing, then he leaves. He's just there to be strong.
But then you can argue if he is just part-time, that's the same thing as Brock thing. Do we want to have him break the streak, the part-time guy? Cody's the full-time guy,
Yeah.
I see your point. I'm like 50-50. Honestly, I think any route's fine. I think it's tough with Cody now being out there. Like, yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think he should have maybe like reeled back on that a little bit, because then if it doesn't happen, you kind of look like you're the second option. So that's the show.
Yeah.
Like I wish he would have just gone more the route of like, oh, whoever earns a title shot. Like, but I get it. I can see Cody wanting to politic for that, right? Because why wouldn't you want to verse The Rock in the main event of WrestleMania? Like, that'll be huge for him, right? There's tons of history they can do there. They did that whole, he gave him the gift back, and we don't know what the gift is still, So I think they are gonna go that route. I just hope we live in a perfect world where we get both matches no matter what. And the last point, because we'll talk about, because they weren't on this card, and then we'll move to the next match. Roger says, it feels like Punk and Drew became the match everyone wants to see versus Punk and Seth. My long-term booking is what's going to happen, RJ, in my opinion, is you're going to get Drew. Clash is going to happen. Drew will get the title there. He's going to hold it to Rumble. At Rumble, they're going to do, I know people say Hell in the Cell. I know, but maybe they do Hell in the Cell and Drew gets the win there. I just think at Rumble, you get Drew and Punk. Punk wins. That way, he can have like only a mini title run. So he's injury prone. Just have him do promos. Have him wrestle just small tags on the house shows. Don't put this man in fucking last man standings against Jacob Fatu. Like, have him just like use his mouth. And then I think Seth, because we're kind of thinking Seth's going to be probably come back at Rumble with a surprise. Seth wins the Rumble. That's how you get there. So that's how I think. Or I do think, I agree with people, there's enough heat to do a triple threat match with those three too. I'm completely down. That'd be a fun way too. Do the Rumble where imagine Punk is at the end and Seth comes back and they have to like a double winner. I'd be down with that too. I think any equation of Seth, Drew, Punk is money, you know? And I just hope, I hope Seth comes back like a little more less Joker Seth. He can keep some elements, but like now's the time to like WrestleMania. I think everybody's like, man, he really put in the work. I agree. He was the MVP, especially once we learned about his leg. It's like, man, he put in a huge shift those two nights. He should be like the Shield of the WWE. He doesn't need to be the Joker Seth anymore. He's past that. He doesn't need that. Keep the song, sure, but so we will see about all that. Okay, next up was, let me get it here, we got Bayley, Naomi, Tiffany Stratton. All I can say is they put in the work there. They had the time, and they just went for it. And Stratton, I'm not going to make this exact comparison, but she reminds me of MJF in the way that MJF, when he was like 24, whatever, everyone was like, man, this guy's already this good at this age. What's he going to be in 10 years? Same as Stratton. She's been in this business for 2 years and already on the mic, already athletically. She, like, everyone was good in that match, but she was the MVP. She stood out the most that match. She's always getting over, so I'm very excited just to see what they do with her in next year. This week her like shirt was #1 selling, but I thought this was a really entertaining match. I would have liked it to go on a little bit longer, but for the time they had, I thought they really delivered. And you know, Bayley and Naomi, always great. I'm interested to see which route they go, if they just go to a Bayley Tiffany one-on-one, but I don't think they should, because I think Tiffany should be one-on-one when she's planning to win the title, because I feel like maybe she could be queen of the ring because she could have some fun with that. I don't know, but really good triple threat. I really enjoyed it. What about you, David?
I thought that match over-delivered for what
Absolutely.
I assumed it was going to be. They went out and they put in work, especially Tiffany Stratton. I knew she was good, but she was amazingly good. And her prettiest moonsault, and then when she missed it, but she landed on her feet and then still ran up on him, I'm like, the girl is showing her skill. Like, the entire match is great. I told you before, I felt like the ending felt a little bit, all right, we got to wrap this up, guys.
Go home.
I would have liked at least another 2 minutes, not too much longer, but if you had just given them another 2 minutes of one-on-one before the ending. I do think that because of the reverse roll-up ending, that did help play into the whole, hey, we're friends, I bested you, rather than the whole, I had to hit you with 3 finishers to put you down. But I do just feel like there could have been 1 or 2 more minutes of one-on-one to finish that out, and maybe even have some good back and forth and still end on the reverse roll-up. I just don't feel like at the end they had enough one-on-one.
That's fair. Yeah, and I can completely agree with that assessment, because I like the reverse roll, because how many times do we see wrestlers do the exchanges and it's just like the quick 1-2, quick 1-2, quick 1-2, and the crowd claps, right? Like, yeah, good job. Like, I like when you get the quick win, and especially with here, it's like Naomi was just like, oh, you got me. Like, and that's all it is. It's just like in any sports games, like, I can't, and that's a good way. It helps Naomi's credibility too, because it's like, you got me, but it's like, in a sneak win situation. It's not like you plowed me and just like, yeah, I destroyed Naomi, because Naomi's booking has been very 50-50. She's been back. Sometimes she's protected. And then there's times where like Tiffany beat her in 2 minutes in a match. Like, hey, what's going on here? So I think now they're getting a better situation of, okay, Naomi's still very over the crowd. Don't treat her as just like not to sound offensive, don't treat her like Natalia, who's just there to put people over, right? There's
Yeah.
still star power in Naomi. I do agree. Undertaker said it. We said on the WrestleMania show. I do think we're getting closer and closer. We need a women's IC belt. I'd like it if it was like the tag where they went both shows, because there's tons of talented women that now, if they're not in the tag or the main, it's like, oh, what do you do? I'm fine if you do storylines for them, but I think there's so many talented women now, you can have an IC title for them or whatever they want to call it. And like Naomi, she'd be like a perfect first champion for that, to be the inaugural one. So yeah, Tiffany though, she's making sure that people aren't second guessing, like, oh, did we bring her up too soon? No, she's making sure that's not a case. So
Yeah, and for the history of the IC belt being the quote unquote workhorse belt, then yes, please give it to Natalia. Let her have a genuine run with it, even if
Natalia
this
Naomi,
is
the finals.
a love letter / apology for the whole farting gimmick from what 10 years ago or so,
Or being Golly's manager for like 2 years.
Yeah, just give it to Natalia and then let her do a Seth where, hey, this isn't a secondary title. This is a meaningful title.
Yeah.
She can show that through her pure wrestling ability. Let her drop down to NXT sometimes and defend it. Let her bounce around other places and defend it. Go between both brands.
That'd be good, because they haven't done that with the women's title, like open challenges, and you could do that, right? That's how John Cena put that U.S. title back on them. Anyone that does open challenges is copying whoever was writer Cena's idea. That 2015 U.S. title run of Cena, that's the formula. That's what Cody did with the TNT title. That's I'm gonna work every week and newbie or like lower people on the roster and give them a spotlight. So I agree. And S-Bubs, 100% I was saying about this before. Yeah, people were talking about Tiffany being Kurt Angle. Yeah, not Gable. Yeah, she to me is very much a female version of Angle and Brock, where they just picked up so fast. And I think Angle's probably the better comparison, because Angle was a great character. Where Brock, he's always been like he became like a good character, but without Paul, he would have been floundering. Like Paul helped him a lot, So
Definitely. I think with Angle, that pure just, I'm taking to this, I'm showing you my skill. I'm just a good athlete.
Yeah.
And that is what Stratton is showing. She's like, I'm just a good athlete. Now all I need to do is learn the nuances of wrestling, but the athleticism, I've got that.
Yeah. And we thought Rousey was going to be that in her first few rounds, and then she didn't really end up being that. There was some difficulty there. Logan Paul, the jury's out, because it feels like not the wrestling community, but like the real wrestlers are very 50 on him, where some people say, oh, he picks it up. But then other wrestlers are like, yeah, he's training for a month for each match. So it's like, yeah, I can see why some wrestlers don't want to give him the credit yet, because it's like, and it's weird too with Paul, because I felt like last year he said he was going to be around more, and it still just feels like the regular. He still feels like he's a part timer, and that's fine with me. But I felt like they were trying to be like, yeah, he's going to be signing a new contract with more dates, but his more dates are just him like appearing and doing promos. So
yeah. Your once a month showing, or you sending in a video from your iPhone from poolside at your home, like to me that's not showing up. Being there in matches, that's showing up. And yes, he is training a month for his matches, but he is putting on some damn good matches,
of course,
and long matches at that. He's not training a month to go out there and do 5 minutes, and he's not doing the Goldberg where I come out, I hit, a couple of moves and my match is over in 3 minutes or less. He's actually putting on good stuff. So for the fact that he's taking all this, remembering all this, and applying it, kudos to him for that. But yeah, I would like to see him in more matches before I can say that he is just a natural. He is a natural showman for sure.
The showman,
he is
for sure
definitely a natural showman. But as far as the wrestling aspect of it, we'll see. I think he does have potential, though, to be one of those people, just like Bad Bunny had that just... You could tell he loved it, he wanted to do it, and he dedicated himself to doing it.
And as much as like I'm not the biggest Rousey fan, but then the counter at the same time, if you did that with Rousey, she probably could have had bangers every time, right? But she decided to go full time and throw in the wolves and stuff. So it's like same thing. What would happen if Logan Paul had to do house shows for 6 months? Would he sink or swim? And that's the difference where Tiffany, obviously she's not a big star, but has picked it up big time. So it's it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with her career. That's why with WrestleMania card with the women, I'm all over because I was so convinced it was gonna be Rhea and Bianca, but I feel like with injuries and new debuts, there's so much happening with Charlotte. When does she get back? It's like I can't really predict that now because there's so much kind of evolving. So we'll see. Next up was Damian Priest, Jey Uso. David, I'm gonna let you take it first. Talk about the match, and then also just try and tell me, like, what are we doing with Damian Priest here? Why are we trying to do a babyface? I have one theory, but like the guy won as a heel, Judgment Day as a heel. In a world where we have so many huge baby faces in WWE, I just feel like they will throw an anchor on this man by making him be a baby face in the sea of Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, CM Punk, all the women as well. Like we talked about on the Discord, Randy Orton, KO. There's like he was like number 11 out of who would be like your top baby faces. But what do you think? He defends, he retains some Judgment Day shenanigans. Jey Uso over as ever. That crowd, America. Do the same thing now. When you do the Jey Uso thing, have your phones out because that was amazing.
That was dope.
Yeah.
Especially while they're doing the 8K camera on their entrances.
Oh, yeah.
To then have that crowd shot, that is amazing. But when it comes to this whole Damian thing, I don't know what they're doing, and I'm very concerned. Not just because I have him in my draft, but I like Damian Priest. I've liked Damian Priest since he was Punishment Martinez back in Ring of Honor. Like I've always liked Damian Priest, and I think he can do so much. But I don't see him as a babyface right now. I think you need to keep him as a heel champion. My thought is that they know going into Clash of the Castle that, they want to send in a heel versus face, but it doesn't make sense because just like, and this is going real old school, Jerry Lawler was a heel, except in Memphis.
Yes.
Anytime he wrestled in Memphis, he wrestled as a face because Memphis loved Jerry Lawler.
Or Hart in the late 90s, right? Remember, he was heel everywhere. Not everywhere, but he was heel in America, but in Canada, uber Hulk Hogan babyface,
Exactly. So it's one of those things of, Drew's going to go in there as the babyface, regardless of what his character is right now. He's going in as the face that. So just leave Damian as heel.
So why fire Damian as a babyface and just look like an idiot, be a babyface that's going to get booed out of the building at Clash? Like, what?
So let him be a heel because he's going to get booed, and then that gives you opportunity to let him do all of the Dashley stuff. Let Judgment Day do what they have to do. And then if he does lose at Clash of the Castle, which for the sake of WWE getting out of there with their lives and not doing this 2 years in a row, if he does lose at Clash of the Castle and it's because of Judgment Day and it's because of all the heel antics, that makes sense for their storyline. And you can continue to build off of that.
Yeah.
And then you can let Drew go and do whatever Drew's got next. But there's no reason to turn him face right now. It doesn't make sense. If there was anyone in Judgment Day that you're going to turn face, let it be Finn. Because he can technically do both, but there's no reason for Damian. I mean, now for the match itself, it was a good match. Mm-hmm. I feel bad for Jay with the moniker main event Jey Uso, and you're not really main eventing. And
he's main event Raw a lot. He's got those Raw main events down,
But you're not putting on 4 or 5 star matches either. Like you're doing good 3.5 star matches.
Can he though? It's funny because he had, to me, because that was another mixed match. That very first match him and Roman had at Hell in a Cell that started that whole thing off, I thought was like a classic. Where some people went, it's too slow, but to me it was like very old school WWE. And I think he might just always be a good wrestler who's going to be uber popular, and that might be the bar, and that might be okay. Like maybe he's, I don't know. I was gonna say maybe he's not world champion, but we've had worse world champions. Like they made fucking Jack Swagger world champion. So like, if he can be he can be at least WHC. So
hey, they gave the belt to Great Khali, so they might as well give it to Jay.
And like maybe he wouldn't have like a long run. He'd be like a good summer, fall in the future, like a couple months. Because not every run needs to be a year and a half. But I don't know. Is that like because I feel obviously he's gonna get back with the Usos, but WWE would also be kind of foolish if they killed the solo act, right? So they're in a weird spot where he's never going to be the top guy, but he's selling merch and people like
Yeah.
him and they love cheering for him. So
Imagine the crowd doing the Jey Uso and he's there with the belt in hand. Like I could
yeah,
see that imagery, and they would actually sell a whole lot of replica titles for the people who want to be in the crowd bouncing along with him with the championship belt.
they should
So
make a Yeet one too. That maybe that's the side plates, right? The side plates. Well, the IC doesn't have side plates, so the world have. But I feel like you got to do some Yeet side plates, right? That would have to be it. But like, is it fine if even he wins like an IC or US in the future? Like, is that fine? You know,
the IC has plates. The IC has plates.
like,
I don't
but do they
know.
change the side plates? Maybe he could do it. He could do it like
Yes,
Cena.
because I'm looking at a picture of when Nakamura had it. They
Okay,
do change it now. It
can.
doesn't look like Gunther changed it, but when
Yeah,
Nakamura had it, they did change it. Oh, hold on, let's see.
yeah.
I'm looking up another picture of Gunther holding it. Yep, nope. They changed it halfway through Gunther's run, so they do change it. So I could see him with the Yeet belt.
Yeah.
I could also see him doing, how AEW likes to do, where they just change the strap on the back.
Yeah, that would sell a lot too. I think those Yeet ones. Yeah.
So they can do a lot with it. I do think that they need to give him a run at the belt soon before Punk comes back. Because I think once Punk comes back, that needs to be the focus.
Oh, see, I think I'm the reverse where I think they'll do it after because I think they'll get him back with the bloodline stuff and that'll keep him busy for 6 months. And people go like, oh, Jay would be champion, but he's helping his brother out. He's helping his cousin out. So they could use, and I think he'll stay hot for it. I am excited because you know what's going to happen when they get back together. They're gonna make Roman do the Yeet, and they're gonna make him do the bounce. They're gonna make him do that when they're baby faces, and that's gonna be when Roman says Yeet. That's gonna be a big moment. That's gonna be huge. So with Jay, I'm of two minds because like I think this was a good match because after the Jimmy match, people really questioned Jay. I think people were really like, it's over. Do the Usos again. I'm not on that bandwagon because like WWE's not into throwing money away, and you can't look at me and say, hey, they should stop doing the main event Jay thing because like he's over, right? Even if he's losing, he's over. Maybe they give him like a month run at something I see. So I think what they're doing here was fine. I was surprised that the no bloodline interfered with him, so I'm not sure really what's next for him. He's not in King of the Ring, so I don't know where Jay goes from here, and that's why I just thought there's been rumors of a trade. Maybe he does go to SmackDown, and they like if it's Bloodline, that makes sense because that's 6 months written out for him. He'll fight Solo, he'll fight Tama, he'll fight Loa, he'll fight Jacob. Like that's a bunch of matches already done. The Usos will get back together, so I think it all depends on if he gets traded. And the Damien thing to me, it makes zero sense. I think your scenario of Judgment Day screwing him makes sense, and it should have been the very first time at Clash, and then the next Raw you start that babyface turn, not this weird build up. And that's why it's very odd that if they have Drew and Damien's starting to be this big, and it was out of nowhere. The past year they've been cheating. These were guys that were gonna like concuss Edge's wife, and all of a sudden now, out of nowhere, Damien's just like, don't interfere in my matches. Nothing spurred this on, and it felt like, and that's where this Triple H era is great so far, but they still got some cons, and this has made no sense. And yeah, Finn's the more natural babyface. My theory is they're doing this because when Rhea comes back, she's going to be a babyface. They're going to split her off Judgment Day, but WWE is still very meh on intergender matches, and I feel like because they always talk about her and Damien being the Twin Towers or whatever that is, I think they'll have Damien turn face so then they can do like a Liv and Dom versus Rhea and Damien. They can have Damien because I think they're more connected. So that's my only theory. They're starting to turn Damien face so he can turn with Rhea, and they can do a lot of intergender matches with them as a team because WWE should. I don't think they have the balls though to do Dom versus Rhea. I think that's a money matchup. It won't hurt Dom to lose. He'll bump all over, but you know how they are with intergender stuff. They're always like, like we don't want to do it. They don't want to start it because they know some of the women are better than the men, so they don't even start that conversation, that role. So that's my theory, that they're turning Damien so they can do like Liv and JD, Liv and Finn, Liv and whoever. That's what I think's happening.
I could see that. My only thing against that is we don't have a timetable for Rhea, so why
Right.
start the face
I
turn
agree.
now? If you had a timetable for Rhea, if you knew, okay, she's on the downturn of her injury, she'll be
Yeah.
back in a month and a half or so.
Yeah,
Okay,
October.
start your face turn, then that way it's fully planted by the time she comes back. I have fear that if you start it now and maybe she doesn't progress with her injury and it's going to take longer, then you just leave Damian out there floundering as a face when he really doesn't need to be. I do want to ask you one thing, going back to the Usos and the bloodline.
Yeah.
And I thought about this yesterday and I was like, please, I don't want this to happen, but I could see it happening just because everyone involved. Could Jimmy and Jay pull a Cody Dustin before getting back together?
Another match? No.
Another match that ends with a "I need my brother," and then they take on. I don't want it to happen, but I could see it happening.
I feel like because if the reaction of the first match was better, I'd say yes, because that first match is like hell. That was one of the worst WWE matches ever, which I don't agree with. But just that match is always bring up my timeline. Anytime that comes up, like yeah, but they really shit the bed there. So like I don't think so. I think they'll. What I think is gonna happen is somehow Jay will end up on SmackDown. There's going to be a beatdown, and Jimmy will come to make the save, and that's how they get him back together. Because Jay did already say in the lead up to Mania, he's like, hey, I'm ready to reconnect, right? So I think they've already laid that. So I don't think we'll get another match. And even though I'm pitching the same thing, I think maybe that's the only thing they could do with Damian is maybe he's going to lose the title, and he can one-on-one feud with Judgment Day for a little bit. And there could be a moment where I remember when they brought Nash back in 2003, and I love this moment, when Shawn Michaels was handcuffed to the ring and Evolution was beating the shit out of him, and Nash comes back, he's like, what the hell's going on with my best friends? Like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I'm injured, and now this is happening? I could see that happening with Rhea, where she comes back, and they're beating the hell out of Damian. It's like, what the hell? Like, this is not what's so... I could see both Jimmy and Rhea coming back in a similar situation where their friend or loved one, sibling is getting beaten up, and they side against the group. So, because I wouldn't mind if Jimmy and Jay got another match, because they could do like a redemption maybe, Maybe they go and have a banger, and then they prove everyone wrong, but I don't know. Because I also didn't agree with Jay's assessment of, oh, we didn't have that much... He said something about the time, and it was like, yeah, but like that doesn't like we didn't need to throw 10,000 super kicks. We knew they were gonna, but they did it to the point where it was like a meme level,
Yeah,
So,
you can cut out some of that time with some of those super kicks.
yeah,
So.
exactly. So SBub says last intergender match was Rhea and Tozawa, so they have done it, but Tozawa like jobber, right? And a Dom I'm fine with, but it's just because I remember that happened. They were gonna do a Nia Jax and Dean Ambrose, aka John Moxley, and they got cold feet. Like, I think it's just because there's tons of people when you ask them about intergender wrestling, they no, absolutely not. Like, it just is not believable. Even though there's tons of women in the world that could kick my ass, kick David's ass. Like the idea of a woman kicking a man's ass for some people is like, no, like that couldn't happen. We're men. It's like, no, man. Like, I believe Rhea could kick the shit out of Dom Mysterio. Like, it's a believable, like, even then. So it's just like, I don't know. So we'll see what happens. But next we talked about a little bit at the beginning, but we had the women's tag. Ultimately, I thought this was a good spotlight. I love that they're doing Bianca and Jade. I think the energy's great. I love that they're matching gear. I think they're throwing Jade in the deep end, and I think that's good because there's a couple spots. There's one I noticed where they were supposed to do that double arm bar into the slam, and Jade went for it early, and then after she was a little flustered because she was like moving around, but like that's what's going to happen. This is the time where you can only have them do the house shows for so long. You're live, you're in a big match, you got to go. Because then if she sinks, then hey, come time WrestleMania, we're not putting her in a fucking spotlight match, And I think she did well. This match to me this was a spotlight match, and it was for moments. The Kari finish, everything. Kabuki Warriors are always good. So, no, I thought this was like what it needed to be and was good. Let Jay and Bianca just dominate for at least 6 months. Like I said, my fantasy booking is to make it to the Rumble. Maybe one of them throws each other out. They start arguing. That costs them a title, and we're right on a WrestleMania. Mega powers explode for Jade and Bianca. That's what I'm pitching. So
Yeah, no, it was a good match for those four. I think that the way that they have Bianca and Jade set up, where they're just two strong women, like they were flexing throughout the entire match, just showing their pure strength.
oh
I
yeah,
think that is perfect for them because if you do run into a situation where Jade gets, for lack of a better term, caught up in the lights,
yeah,
all they have to do is do a feat of strength spot until she gets her momentum back, and it
yeah.
will seem flawless for them. It
And the
will
crowd's
seem
back in it too. They're like,
in character
whoa.
for them. Yeah, just hey, show off your pure strength. I
Poor Corey
like
having
that
to do
they,
those bumps though.
yeah, that they leaned into that, and
All
you
those house
know,
shows.
with them being on SmackDown, and in my opinion, SmackDown having the much deeper women's roster for
Yeah.
both single and tag, they own the women's division in my opinion right now. That they are going to have a lot of good people that they can go up against who can bump for them and who can work into their feats of strength. And so that would just be good for them. Yeah, let them have a nice long run with the belt, just being strong, dominant women, and that just be their thing. Hey,
Mhm.
we're not here to be the heel group. We're not here to be the face group. We're just strong, dominant women, and we are going to dominate this division and show you just how strong we are. When Jade came out, my girlfriend, who does not watch a lot of wrestling, I mean, hardly any wrestling whatsoever. If she's in the room, it's on accident. To the point where Jade comes out and she goes, she reminds me of Storm from the X-Men. And I go, that's the thing. She goes,
That's
she
the
looks
idea.
strong. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. And my girlfriend is a bodybuilder. She is training. She's got a bodybuilding show in 3 weeks. So for her to look at this girl and compliment how strong she is and how great her presentation is,
Yes.
and that's coming from a bodybuilder, that to me, I was like, yeah. So she's hitting everything she's supposed to.
And that's the only thing you need to do now, right? It's just a bit. She doesn't have to be Bret Hart or even as good as like a Sasha Bianca. Just
Yeah.
has to like a little better and a little more skilled. Not that she isn't, because the look and the aura, that's all there. That it factor thing's already done. And the other reason why I just think this is such a good idea, you're pairing her with, in my opinion, a top 3 women's wrestler. I haven't done the list, but I feel like it's like Rhea, Bianca, and I'd probably go Charlotte. You can make an argument for Sasha and Bailey and lots of others. There's other people in NXT, but like to me, Bianca, Rhea, and Charlotte, those are the best. So it's like putting Jade with Bianca, absolutely the right thing to do, because she's like fantastic in the ring, has the character stuff, has the promos, so she can like any spots that she needs carrying, Bianca's right there. You know, like Bianca's the person that could work the handicap match and make it good. So it's like the fact that Jade's there too, that works. And yeah, I think this is just like a money one, and also give, like you said, a long reign, because those tag titles, they've really had like a messy history. You know, a great start with Sasha and Bailey, but then they had like a month run, and then there's injuries, and sometimes they're just like, they should be important titles. All tag titles should be, but like the women's one have never felt, other than maybe when they first debuted them, this is probably the most important they've felt since then. So I hope they make them not an afterthought. I think with Bianca having them, they won't be, because they love Bianca, right? So
Yeah, having a title that people actually chase makes it feel important. And for
yeah,
a while, it wasn't a we're chasing the women's tag team titles. It was, hey, we're going to have a match and you're going to be going for the women's tag team title. Oh, hey, we won the women's tag team title. Guess we are going to be a team for a while now, i.e., Chelsea Green and Piper Niven.
yeah.
Just,
And then
hey,
Sonya before that.
yeah, you guys are a tag team now, so here you go. You got the belt, so we're gonna keep you guys together.
Yeah.
Having people actually chase that belt and want to chase that belt makes it so much more important.
When do you think, I suppose, ask when the feud happens? Like I said, my fantasy booking is Rumble time, because I think we're in June now, so, and they could even lose the titles before we're in May, so that'd be June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. That's a long time. That is 8 months, so that's a tough time. But like we said, if they give them a long run, like give them a 6-month run, And then in those last 2 months, you start to build the tension. You make Jade, because I think Jade's got to be heel. She's a natural, like she's a good baby face, but in AEW, she was a natural heel, like the that bitch promo. So I feel like you do 6 months of them best friends, tearing the roster apart, and then those last 2 months leading up to Rumble, there's some contention. But they could do it earlier. They could, but I just think maybe the answer is also just when Jade's ready too. Maybe it's just they're going to make it a case by case. But when do you think could be the break apart?
Well, you can use exactly what Espo said. Use the whole tension between Bayley and Bianca, and that is the point when there is a split off. Someone's going to want to go after Bayley's championship, and that's where you split Jade and Bianca. Okay, we are both the two strongest. Who gets to go after the belt?
Do a triple threat too, and then maybe start some tensions. Remember when they did Cena versus Michaels and HBK, and that was a fun scenario where they were team champions, but Sean sweet chinned him right away. You could do something like that, you know.
Yeah, so it's got to be, that's a good, easy way to create the dissension, to start to split the team, but also establish some people for Bayley and keep that storyline going. Because right now, again, the SmackDown roster is pretty stacked, so Bayley's going to have some challengers for a while, so you can let Bianca and Jade cook over in the tag team for a little bit. But then, once she's had those matches under her belt, once she's had those showings on the PLEs and showed that she can actually go, then, present her ready to make a run at a world championship.
Yeah, well, because we'll talk about the King Ring quickly before we get to the main event. Because to me, the it's not that it's tough, right? It's not that it's not the Raw roster for the women. It's not that it's weak, because there's a lot of great people there. Like Valkyrie's coming up, and like her versus Asuka, that's gonna be great. That's in one of the matches. Io and Natalya, and it's tough because with Natalya, it's not that like. It's just how we know they booked Natalya, right? You know, it's just going to be like she'll be a good match, but she's there to lose. The other one was Shayna versus Selena, and then Zoe versus Ivy. I think the problem with all four of those, other than Selena, but like to a lesser degree, but the other three, it's like Shayna, Zoe, and Ivy. They've just been like kind of floundering. Those are the ones like you talked about, the worst of we have nothing to do with these people, put them in a team. She's with Dupree. Oh, we have nothing to do with Zoe and Shayna, put them in a team. Like I was watching when they were doing the Becky and Trish storyline, and Zoe was there, but it's just like they never used that to help her out. So I think that it's not that the Raw women's roster is weak. I think it's just that they have not been fleshed out too much. So it's like when I see these matches, other than Asuka and Valkyrie, I'm not really that interested in many of them. I'm like these are like regular Raw matches, which we'll get into the draft after about some lack there's switches of and stuff. Like I thought Dakota was cleared. Like I would rather her be in here too. You know, like I don't know. And I also Rhea's gone right now, and I feel like the reason Liv's not in this because they're probably gonna do Liv and Becky, and that makes sense to me. So Liv and Becky, I'm very interested in, but the rest of this, I don't know. But like, and we don't know the SmackDown side. But how are you feeling about on the Raw side for the women? Who do you think makes it all the way?
I'm not sure with the women because there's not anyone strong. I would just guess Lyra because she had such a good showing in NXT that they might use this to propel her up. I loved Zelina Vega when she won, and I'm sad that she's going against Shayna to start. I could see Shayna winning just because she has that whole Queen of Hearts gimmick with her already, and they just prepare that. But I don't want to see Shayna with a crown and all that. She's not a good promo, in my opinion, to be able to handle the promos that the Queen of the Ring would have to, because that's one thing that they are also known for. From Austin on, people who have won the King and Queen of the Ring have delivered with good promos, either during or after. Booker's run as a king, even Baron Corbin's run as a king. Regal had an amazing run as a heel king, just sitting in the throne with the menacing look, and his promos afterwards just were amazing. So you have to have someone who can come and deliver, not just with the wrestling aspect of it, but also the presentation of the king or queen. And I think Selena did an amazing job with the presentation aspect of it as the queen.
One of the biggest what ifs. I hate that you remind me of Regal, heel Regal that was this GM at the same time. And remember that whole promo? He's like, okay, turn the lights off, and they would boo and turn like. I hate that he got popped for fucking steroids. Not like that was the policy, right? So he shouldn't have been doing it. But man, like he was getting. It looked like for the first time Regal was going to be like a main top guy, and that just like him when Kennedy got popped. Well, that's a podcast we should do one time, like our top 10 like what ifs. And Regal, because that heel King of the Ring GM, he had heat. Like, what a piece of shit. He's the GM and he enters himself in King of the Ring. Like, what? And then he's like that match where it was Cena and Triple H and they ended the broadcast so you didn't get to see it. It's like he had so much heat going on. And you're right. My pick, I think they should give it to Valkyrie, but like to lose at the finals. I don't think, because I think if she wins, you always risk the hot shot. We saw when they did that with Paige the first year when she won the title the first night, and it was an uphill climb. So I think you give her a good showing, but she loses to some veteran on SmackDown, and we'll see the names. And the men, we got Eli versus Ricochet, Kofi versus Ray, Gunther versus Sheamus, Drew versus Finn, and just a super stack. Like, all four of those matches are like, I can't wait. Like, even Kofi and Ray, it won't be a clinic, but that's just going to be tons of fun. Like, that's going to be a really good time. I have, to me, the finals of the men's side being Gunther and Dragunov, and Gunther gets his win back here. And I just don't think Gunther is going to lose this. I think he's winning the whole thing, but I think for the Raw side for sure. But great lineup right there.
Yeah, I really, really want Gunther to take the men's side just because I think that he would be an excellent King of the Ring. Just his whole presentation already leans into it. Ricochet just won the Speed Championship, so he's gonna put on a good showing, but he's not winning it.
If the match is longer than 5 minutes, he's screwed. You know, he can't win.
Kofi and Ray, it's going to be a good match. I have a feeling Kofi's going to go over, and I don't know how the bracket is set yet, but I see him losing to Gunther to continue that whole New Day versus Imperium thing.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre and Finn is just going to bang. I don't care who wins because I know neither is going to win in the finals, but I just know it's going to be a damn good match.
Yeah. I think Drew, it's just a question of when does CM Punk screw him. I think that's probably it, right? Is it right away? Is it in the finals? So he could lose round one because Punk's music hits and he looks up and then Finn rolls him up and it's over, right?
Yeah. Depending on how they have it set, I could see a situation where it is Drew versus Gunther and it's the hard hitting match. And then the way that I envision it, again, I don't know where the brackets line up.
Yeah.
Ilya beating Ricochet, Gunther beating Sheamus. I think Gunther and Ilya face in round 2, and then Gunther goes on for the Raw final against Drew, and that's where Punk cost Drew in the Raw finals to see who goes on to the actual King of the Ring match.
I could see that, yeah. Either way, I think you're getting Gunther and Dragunov, and Gunther will get the win here. And then they're in WWE Worlds tied. They're 1-1, right? And then you can run that back at some point, right? So, yeah, great. And I'm excited to see the SmackDown. It was weird that they revealed the Raw on Backlash and they're revealing the SmackDown on Raw. I thought you would have flipped that because SmackDown's also on Backlash. So it was just a minor thing. I was like, why? But that's okay.
Unless, I don't know, are they starting this week? If they're starting this week, then it makes sense. So if
I
they're
guess,
starting,
yeah, you're right.
If they're starting this week, then they're like, all right, hey, this is what's coming up Monday. And on Monday, we'll announce what's coming up on Friday. If it's not starting until the week after, then yeah, it doesn't make sense.
They probably are because I forgot to say this. Usually we wait a month, but what we'll probably be doing, whether it's the Monday or Tuesday after, we got Double or Nothing May 26th and then King of the Ring the 25th. So the week after, will be the next Gimmick episode because that's 2 pay-per-views back to back. I'm camping for half of them, so I'll be gone and then I'll have to like watch it all on the Sunday night. But yeah, you're right. They're probably starting Monday because they're doing 4 matches for each bracket for men and women. So that's a lot of matches. It's not like some of the bad King of the Rings where we just had like 8 matches and that was it. It was like, oh, brother.
Yeah, I've already told my family to check me out on that weekend because my birthday's Friday,
Oh
King of the
yeah,
Ring, and then Double or
yeah.
Nothing. It's a 3-day event for me. So I'm like, yep, nope, you guys just count
Yeah.
me out.
Only text me for emergencies. Yeah. And then we had the main event. We had AJ versus Cody. I mean, let's start with you because you were kind of you were not mixed on it, but you weren't sure how you were feeling. So now after not 24 hour, oh, I guess not 24 hours, but a day later, how you
Yeah.
feeling on the main event? Cody retains, which I don't think that if AJ would have won, I feel like again that would have been. I'm not saying Cody has to hold it for a year, but I feel like most of us assume he's at least gonna get till like Survivor Series. You know,
I,
like
I I need my sign if AJ wins, we riot.
yeah,
So my first viewing, and I do rank a lot of matches off of the emotion that it gives me. My first one, I felt a little let down, but I feel
hmm
like that was my own fault. Well, half my fault, half WWE's fault, because the way that they had been hyping Uncle Howdy,
yeah,
that cloud was over the match the entire time. And I spent a lot of time thinking, Cody's winning this. When am I going to get my Uncle Howdy part? And so with that cloud over there, it was hard to fully invest in the match itself. I took a couple hours break and then I went back and I rewatched the match without that cloud over there. And rewatching the match, it did jump up from a 3.25 to a 4-star match, in my opinion.
mm.
Just being able to focus in on that, the story going into that, and everything else, I was able to better enjoy the match without the cloud of, okay, when are the lights going out? When are the White Six going to appear in the crowd? When's this going to happen? Just enjoying the pure match itself was great. And on a minor note, I love the fact that on the back of Cody's ring jacket when he's coming out, he put a border around his logo that is the same border of the Undisputed Championship. So instead of
Oh, I
the
didn't see that.
WWE logo, it's his championship in that border, and it even says Undisputed Champion under there. That shot from the back of him with the crowd all doing the whoa at the same
Yeah.
time, it made him truly feel like a big deal champion. And I think that that presentation is going to be paramount because right now he doesn't really have a big storied challenger coming up. Right now it's just going to be a couple of here and there's till we can get to a big program, but he doesn't have anything big coming up. So keeping that strong presentation that everyone loves him as champion is going to be paramount. And I think that that's what they did here. And it was amazing. I felt bad for AJ on the flip side though, with him just transferring his music. This would have been a great time. I feel like the crowd would have sung his old music. No one knows this new Def Rebel music, nor
Yeah,
does
I
anyone like it. So
I see in the chat, S Bubs. I see you praising AJ's new theme. No, man. What? Absolutely not, S Bubs. Get out of here. I know you're a deaf rebel defender, believer, but this AJ Styles theme is just. It sounds like it's a song in a blender. Like it just does not have a good vibe. I'm not digging it, but I joke, so I'm glad you are. But yeah, if they would have had, you don't want none of all of that. Like yeah, I would have been great. I get that as a heel, but yeah, I'm curious what they're going to do this. I really like the match. I thought they on purpose had like a slower start. I'm like a 4 out of 5 where I thought it was, when I say better than average, to me, people might sound like that's an insult. No, because like most average matches are like really good nowadays, right? Like ring quality is just good all around the board in WWE and AEW. So I thought it was really good. I thought the back half really picked up. I thought the third quarter of the match, they're back and forth, the burning hammer spot, the kick out at one, using that, AEW Kenny Omega spot. Like I think that's great. Kenny Omega still is the best spot for that though. When they did the Osprey one, that's still like
yeah,
that's the most recent one. So no, I thought they closed off really good. They had some really good sequences. I'm curious to see where they go because I'm fine with them doing rematches, but I don't want to be in the old regime where it would always be you'd have that challenger for like 2 pay-per-view sets. Like, and that happened to AJ. Remember, he was stuck with Nakamura for a while. He was stuck with Joe for a while. But my thing is that they touched upon a little bit of the Bullet Club stuff, but they didn't fully go there. And what I took note of in the match, AJ didn't hit the forearm and he didn't hit the clash. So I don't know. Either way, is that them not having, hey, we don't want you to kick out because we want AJ to be strong, or is that, well, we don't want him to kick out because then in the next match when he hits it, it is, oh, well, I didn't hit the clash on you, so you didn't kick out of my stuff, right? And I like that. I like that AJ also just took one crossroads and that was it. Like, I'm all down for finisher exchanges, but they got to be in key moments. And you don't also want to make finishers just to be like nothing nowadays, right? Especially after Mania, my man's hitting like 5 crossroads on Roman. It's like, okay, we got to put some stank back on this finisher. It's going to be like a signature move, right? So
Yeah.
I thought they had a really good, solid, at times, old school. It wasn't as unique as I thought Cody was going to do, because I remember with the Dustin match and the match he had with Nick Aldis and the Young Bucks match that him and Dustin had together, he would very much wrestle some very, very 80s style matches, and that was a big divide with people. Because with Dustin it worked, and I remember with Aldis, they did lots of different spots, and DDP got involved. So I think he did more of like a safer WWE one. So I don't think he's going to bring in some of those Cody-isms in right away. Maybe he'll do that when he's not the main card or like the main event, but I thought it was a good outing. You know, people keep saying the crowd's going to turn on Cody. I don't see that happening yet. Like, not for like,
not at
for a
all.
while.
And
Yeah.
him hitting the Kimura lock, I thought was just a nice little
Yeah.
touch. And yeah, so he had that top rope Cody Cutter into his finisher, and I think that was best. Like, I agree with you. The spamming of the finishers, that should be big fight feel. Like,
Yeah.
it made sense for, all right, I did 2 in the match earlier. He kicked out. So now that I have another chance, I'm doing 3 this time.
Yeah.
And I got to take him out. Same thing with, the whole F5s when Brock was just hitting them left and right.
Yeah,
Like,
the finisher matches. Yeah.
yeah, he's like, I've got to put you down. And this was not a I have to put you down type match.
No.
This was just a good back and forth. And yeah, AJ can still say, hey, you know what? Had I got the Styles Clash on you, had I got the phenomenal forearm, you wouldn't have stood a chance. So
Yeah.
that leaves AJ feeling strong. That leaves a chance for another rematch where you can do that, but it doesn't. You took away all that extra, and they just had a pure good wrestling match. And Cody leaves with everything on a high. The crowd goes home happy. People get to again sing his theme song on the way out. It was a good match and a good ending to that match.
It felt like a big main event in the way it felt like a New Japan main event, but in a way where there's 15 minutes missing. It's still a good match, but it feels like in New Japan that would have went on 15 minutes longer, and he would have got that other gear. And that's what I was kind of hoping for. Is I still liked it, but I think there's a chance they could have got to me like a 4.5. I'm not going to put 5 on them because that's rare, but I think they could have gone a bit longer, because when the show ended under 3 hours, I thought, oh, they're going to give them like 40 minutes. Like, they're going to make this a long, and they didn't. So that's where I not worry. It's not that I don't want a rematch. It's just not immediate. But at the same time, I don't know who on SmackDown Cody would verse next. I feel like they might do AJ again. I don't think they'll do a babyface with him and LA Knight. I don't think, like, who are some other heels they got on? I guess we can kind of talk about the draft too quickly, but like, who are some other heels they got on SmackDown right now?
That's what I'm looking right now, because I don't think that they
Let's see.
they have anyone major that can make that challenge.
And that's why I feel like it's going to be age, and I just don't. That's where you run the risk of like that, and that's like the pro and con, right? Because then people are going to be like, well, that's why it was better when Roman was champ, because he wouldn't have those rematches. He was gone. No, there was a way to do them, but you just didn't have to make them immediate. But let's see, because yeah, I got the SmackDown roster. I guess Bobby, but he'll probably be in King of the Ring, right? But like, I would actually prefer. Bobby's been announced for King of the Ring, though, right? I think that's official. Or is that not confirmed?
They haven't announced the SmackDown ones yet. I know.
I suppose I saw you say you could see Gunther and Bobby if Cody versus Karen Cross. Don't put that on us.
No,
that'll turn feel. I hope if Bobby's Okay, so here's my pitch. If Bobby's in King of the Ring, then I think they're just going to do Cody and AJ too, and I don't think they main event. If he's not, I think Cody and Bobby could be good. It's tough because Bobby, like, they can't decide if they want him heel or face because they turn him back to face, but then he's healing all over Carmelo this weekend, so I really don't know. So I feel like we're probably going to get AJ and Cody. Maybe at least give us a stip then, do something a little bit different, so...
Okay, so for SmackDown and for the men's, let's see, you got for your singles top stars, you got Solo, Shinsuke, Randy,
Don't
LA
Shinsuke
Knight,
either. Let's not do Shinsuke.
Kevin Owens,
Yeah.
Carmelo Hayes, which
I'm not.
could
He just
be
beat
good.
him, right? But he just
Bobby
beat him, right?
Lashley,
Like I wouldn't be opposed to
Andrade,
like
and AJ.
oh yeah, Andrade. He's babyface. I wouldn't be opposed to a either face KO or a face LA Knight getting the match. I don't know if that main events the show, but like I'm not opposed. I'm never scared of like a babyface matchup. I think those can be fun, but I guess we'll see. I'm gonna say the safe bet that they're gonna run it back with AJ. That's what I think is gonna happen, and maybe they'll have King of the Ring main event or something. So, or the World Heavyweight title. So we'll see. So
Yeah.
yeah, overall good show. Let's see. Yeah, Saudi loved LA Knight last time. Maybe get the rub there, but we'll go full into this. But what did you think as we're talking about the roster? What were your thoughts on the draft overall that happened on Monday and Friday previous week? And it felt like that's the first time in the Triple H era where I feel like there was a lot of this was a dud. I don't think it was like channel turning. I don't think it was like we're in trouble. I just think this is the first time where a lot of people went, man, usually Triple H just delivered on these big events and this era, and it didn't really. It felt kind of very similar, not bad Vince era stuff, but just felt like, run of the mill, couple changes here. So I feel like this was the first stumble, but luckily they just had a great pay-per-view, so I think they're A-okay.
There were no big aha gotcha moments, and I mean, I would have liked to see, because they did stylize it as the NFL draft, which was going on the same week. I would have liked to have seen some trade ups or something else. Like, if you're going to stylize it off of that, then truly make it an event like that. Like, hey, we have, such, they picked him up, but you know what? Now we are trading him for 2 other draft picks and things like that. Like, do something like that. If you're going to make, for the most part, the roster's pretty predictable. They didn't change that much. Some people you could be like, okay, I could see where this is going. With some of the earlier draft picks, like, okay, SmackDown's got Bianca Belair. Well, now I know that Montez Ford is staying on SmackDown.
And Jade.
They're not,
like those 3, boom. Yeah.
they're not splitting couples anymore and doing stupid stuff like that. So you kind of knew, all right, well, this is what's going to happen. This person went there, so I know that someone else is going to go there. It was pretty predictable. So I think there could have been some more big moments and just let that have, for as much as it was hyped up, it did not live up to the hype. I also think they kind of ruined the whole thing with Braun Strowman, drafting him before having him return. I think you have him return, and then with the next set of drafts that come right afterwards, go, hey, now that we've seen he's back, that's who we want.
Yeah. I agree. That's good. S-Bubs with some more trash. Giovanni Vinci versus Cody. They just strap the rocket to him,
If he's bringing back his NXT with the Gucci and the Ferraris, then yes, please. I'm here for that.
Yeah. Well, I hope he does that because I'm worried about him. But I think the draft is in a very difficult spot because I think the best method is to do like the superstar shakeup where this show would have been better if it's like, hey, only 4 people are switching brands and that's what's like, oh, Damage Control's coming over. This is cool. But when it's the whole roster, I think that's why I was surprised. I thought, we're getting a really big reset. And we really didn't. It's just them drafting everybody. So it's tough because you want to do a draft. You don't want to do superstar shakeup because no one, like mainstream, like, what's the superstar shakeup? Draft's like, it's like the NFL. And the tough thing is, like, in a perfect world, I would love it if the draft was purely, all you could do is you could only trade main roster guys and you could only draft from NXT. Like the NFL, they're all rookies. That'd be great. But the problem is the football community consume, not everybody, like I watch NFL, I don't watch college, but tons of people that are mega fans watch both, right? They know who's get, like when people get drafted the draft, I ask my football friends, is this a good pick for us? Yes, great, you know. But there's people that know this guy's going here, this guy's going there. The WWE doesn't have that exact same audience, right? Raw and SmackDown are watched anywhere from 1.5 to sometimes 3 million people. NXT is 700,000. So you don't have that same. You have a few of the big time like Carmelo and Braun, but like the some of the women like Blair Davenport, they didn't know who that was, right? There was no
Yeah.
pop there. So that's a tough thing where in an ideal world, I'd love it. Hey, we're gonna draft 10 rookies from NXT, 5 for SmackDown, 5 for Raw. I think that would be cool to like replicate like a college thing, like, oh man, they're coming up. And I think they shot themselves in the foot. They didn't have Braun or Tiffany at WrestleMania. They shouldn't have brought them up till the draft, and that would have had like a bigger impact. You still could have thrown Tiffany in a triple threat quickly. Maybe she like signed some sort of deal. Like that'd be a fun thing too. Like that's how they coaxed her. It's between Raw and SmackDown. She decided to go SmackDown because we'll give you a title. Like there's fun things you could do, but it's stuff like I said, you can't do shake up because you want to do the draft. You can't draft from NXT because that wouldn't pull in the same ratings. So I feel that they should somehow just kind of cheat and do the old ways where it's a draft, but you do some shakeup. And the other thing is like it hurts kayfabe because my brain breaks of like how can you draft 6 superstars with the LWO, but then you just draft one here? Like as general manager, why wouldn't you just draft all the stables and just have a stacked roster? You know, why would you not? They never at any point said, "Hey, NXT people, NXT champions are off limits." Why would no one draft Trick Williams? Why like
Yeah.
he's so over right now. The whoop that trick, the camera move, like there's kayfabe wise, I could not look at anybody because like technically he is the NXT champion. He is the best on that roster, right? How as a GM, why would you not draft a guy that's the best on the roster and also very popular? Like that's the problem when you make the draft sports like there becomes issues and they just make them non-believable. And it sucks also when the draft only has 20 minutes of wrestling. It's like, well, the draft stuff isn't exciting. And all I got is Cody versus Carmelo, which was fine. I do think even on the AJ match, he did like a backflip. Cody's got to be really careful with these cutters, man. He's getting way too, like, I'm at the point where maybe he should just bust them out every once in a while because he's missing them more than he's hitting them, and he keeps landing on that shoulder. And maybe he did do a solid job, but my life flashed before my eyes of, man, the Roman fans are never going to let this man live it down. 3 weeks in this title reign, and he like needs shoulder shirt. Like, I think he should leave the Cody Cutter for PPV matches. Stop doing it weekly. He's missing it too much, or the people aren't taking it right. You know?
Yeah, I agree. It needs to go back to being a big moment. He busted it out, and not just every match or sometimes twice in a match.
You're not Osprey.
Because yeah, it's not there for you. Like it works for who it works for, but for trying to take it, and then if people aren't taking it right and you're putting yourself at risk, you're a champion, we need you to be leading the way. It's just not what we need for you. Going back to the draft, I would like to see if NXT is eligible to be drafted. I would like to see NXT get one draft pick each night.
Okay,
That is a way to send somebody back down to
Oh
NXT.
yeah, because that didn't happen at all. Yeah, you're right. Because that was the whole rumor. They're becoming a third brand, and we were like, oh, Natalya might go there, Nakamura, and they didn't. They're still just up. So which is fine,
Yeah.
but it's like if you're gonna make it the third brand, you need somebody like a Corbin there, right? But
Yeah, I could see that would be a good way to bring somebody down who wants to go down, because most of the people that they do send back down to NXT are good people who just want more time, more storylines. They're like, hey,
yeah,
I'm not doing anything. Like, if someone were to draft a Nakamura back down to NXT, I could be like, that makes sense.
yeah,
I could see
exactly.
that. And then he goes down and he looks strong in NXT. He's doing something, and then he doesn't have to leave Florida, which I know would be ideal for him. He gets to surf anytime he wants. It's a win-win. Like, so I could see that. I would, yeah, if you're going to third brand them, if you're going to make them someone that we can steal from, give them a pick a night and let them take one person from each brand as a result.
And say no champions. 'Cause
Yeah,
Cody
'cause
Rhodes and NXT.
it just
Yeah.
like you said, some things about it just do not make sense with it. Like you can't seriously tell me that Raw is taking Akira Tozawa over Trick Williams
Well,
or some
that's
of
what I
these other
mean, right?
people
Yeah. And
in
that
NXT. Like
the
it
other
just does not make sense.
the other suggestion I would have for the draft, it might get too like, oh, there's too much rules to follow. But I would do something as like each brand, and you could do Raw, one night, SmackDown, whatever. But each brand gets one male superstar, one female superstar, one male tag, female tag, one faction, and an NXT person. And that's
Yeah.
where it's like, that's where you go, okay, they wouldn't go bananas. They would like, yeah, why wouldn't you just get Trick, Dragunov, Braun? It's like, no, you get one from NXT. Like, you could even do one male or female, right? You get one male, one female. If you're not going to do the college route, there, you get one tag team. So the same thing. Why wouldn't I just pick? I'm gonna pick the Bloodline. I'm gonna pick LWO. I'm gonna pick the new. Like, why would I not just pick every faction and just have all? Like, because then I'm getting Kofi, Xavier. I'm getting Solo. I'm getting this. I'm getting Ray. Like, the fact that like the factions and even the Carlito thing, that was BS. He's always still with the LWO, right? Like, no, man. He just. He was
Yeah.
just caught trying to murder Dragon Lee. Like, you just want it so the feud can continue. Like, that's where it becomes too like they try to make it like, oh, of course everyone knows it's scripted, but they want you to make it feel like it's real. That's when you make the GMs feel like idiots, and you go, okay, they're just actors and characters now. You lose the realism within the world of what these GMs would do. You know,
Yeah.
like you said, Tozawa over Trick Williams. Like, who's doing this?
It would be more like a fantasy football draft where you
Yeah.
get certain slots, so I can't fill up my
Exactly.
entire team with quarterbacks. I need a quarterback, two running backs, two art like
Yeah.
so it's the exact same thing. This is what you can draft, fill up those spots, and then once that's there, then you start looking at a brand like, oh, they have to draft a faction now
Exactly,
because they've
yeah.
already filled up their other spots. So which faction is it going to be? That gives it some more intrigue.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think the good thing with Triple H and company, they do listen to critiques and they change it up. So I think that next year they will either there'll be no draft or they will make it some adjustments to, because it did pop a rating, but I don't know if it's going to people next year will have that same excitement. I think they'll make some adjustments. So
Yeah.
yeah, so not fine. We got AEW, and then we'll talk about our matches quickly. But so AEW, this past month, we had Dynasty, which is overall was hailed as a really good show for them. They needed that, other than maybe some people having the Jericho FTW moment, which we talk about. But what has been since Dynasty till now? What has been your thoughts on AEW? Because we left. Since then, we had talked about they were doing the footage, and they had showed the footage, and we talked a little bit about that and stuff. But they've, I think, kind of had a bit of a mixed bag where there's still some great matches, but the Jack Perry storyline, Tony Khan, that's a very divided, where some people think this is great, or some people think it's, it's just carny, and even though every promotion's done it, they're going down the bad route. So since Dynasty to now, where are you with AEW as far as the past month, and then especially with the Elite Takeover storyline? How's the month of April been for the Challenger brand, as TK would call it?
With the exception of anything involving Chris Jericho, AEW has been putting on some great matches and some great storylines. Again, this Jericho Vortex thing, and I do feel part of it is him leaning into it.
Yeah, he's
but I
being
think
meta
he's
now,
leaning into
yeah.
it too much, and it's just I don't want to see it. I don't want to see you squashing guys, and even though you're leaning into a joke, you're still squashing guys that don't need to be. You're beating people that don't need to be beat right now. But overall, they've had better matches. When it comes to Tony Khan himself, I thought it was hilarious, and I love the fact that he wore the neck brace to the NFL draft.
Yeah,
I
it was
just wish he would have kept his mouth shut. Like when you're going on
right, I
TV
forgot
and they're
those.
asking you about the NFL draft, yeah, keep the collar on. Protect kayfabe, brother. But when it comes to some of the other stuff he was saying to try and big up the wrestling product, I'm like, you're not making wrestling as a whole look that appealing to the outside universe. When you start comparing people to Harvey Weinstein and things like that, that doesn't make people want to run to your product. That makes people want to run away from wrestling.
Yeah.
So other than that, I'm excited to see where things go with the Elite and with everything in their takeover, I thought that what just happened between Omega and Okada and the writing off
Oh,
of Omega for a while, as much as I love Omega and I want to see more of him, I'm praying that he comes back. This
man
was a
almost
good
died.
this was a good way though to stop the questions for a while.
Yeah.
Stop the when's he coming back? What you wrote him off. You bought yourself a couple of months for him to figure out is he going to go surgery, which route he's going to take.
Yeah, I keep
Because,
seeing people book him and Omega or Okada 4 for Wembley. I wouldn't get that far. I know that, like, obviously that would be
no.
the goal, but I keep seeing like, oh, this isn't like, no, like I'm sure they would like that, but I'm not. I'm not convincing myself that's happening right now. I saw a lot of that after. I was like, no, I think this was to give them some room. So like, if Omega's gone for like a year, you know why, you know?
Yeah, I'm thinking double or nothing next year. Like
Yeah,
he's going to
possibly.
be
Yeah,
he's going to be out for a while and then return in enough time to say, "Hey, a year ago you put me on the shelf with this. Now I'm back." Like
yeah.
let that man have his time to heal up, and I think this was a perfect time to give him that opportunity to heal up. I think I'm excited to see what Osprey does. I know a lot of people are upset that he's not going for the world title right now. I
Mm,
think it's a great idea because
yeah.
you just gave Swerve, who is still red hot, the title. Let that man cook.
Hmm.
Let Osprey do his thing. Give Osprey the secondary title because it's not really doing anything right now. Let him be over there. Let him build that back up to prominence, and then let Swerve do what he's doing with the world title. They don't need to go against each other just now. Let
No.
Swerve have his moment and let Osprey have his moment. You don't need to hotshot both of them against each other.
And because they're
And
probably going to do Wembley again next year because they love doing events the same stop. That's where you can sell that because I think right now it's
Osprey winning the world title at Wembley would blow the
yeah.
roof off the already roofless place.
Save that for next year. Like right now, it's going to definitely be lower. It's not going to be the whatever 80,000 it was or whatever it was last year. I think they're
Yeah.
more around 50. I think once they get some more matches of the card, I think they could maybe get to like a 55, 60, depending on like how good those matches are. The first year, of course, had like a not nostalgia, but just had like a specialty thing to it, right? Because the first time wrestling done Wembley in a long time, and of course, there's gonna be some people that watch went, "Hey, this isn't for me. It's not WWE." You know, like John Moxley getting the straw, the sticks
Yeah.
in the head. That's gonna turn some people off, right? But I think you can save that for the Wembley after. I'm with you where I think it would have been a hot shot. I think that title needs it because much like everything with the Devil storyline, I thought Roddy at least was going to put on some really good matches, but they've just like secluded my guy to like Rampage to verse like people he's going to destroy. Like it's very odd what because Roddy can go, he could put on a 5-star if you give him the right guy, right? So I thought they were going to give him some. It's just like they didn't want him to beat top guys, which I thought that's what they had Orange Cassidy do. They had Moxley do at that time. Like it's like, okay, he beat Kyle. He's beaten Kyle before, and it was a good match. But like, let him beat some of your bigger stars. But it felt like they didn't want like, oh well, Roddy's still at the B tier. We don't want him to beat like even. I don't know, like a Claudio even or someone like that. It was
Yeah.
people that like aren't gonna win. So again, they just got to get MJF back, beat Adam Cole, and then I'm happy Adam Cole's walking. That's a good sign. Like like the Devil group would be much better United Kingdom if Cole was around because he can talk and do stuff. But they need to an MJF same thing. Who knows when he gets back? But I'm with you where Osprey win their national title. Who do you pair him up with then for Wembley if he wins it here? Who's the defense?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I would have him hopefully.
Okay. Also, before you go, it's rumored the max is 60 because of the Swift concert. So there you go. Well, if they can get to 50 out of 60, like that ain't bad. Like that's not like again, people are gonna spin all the time that AEW's in trouble. Their ratings went up this week. They're even like Winnipeg this week sucked for a crowd. They're quiet other than Omega, but they're still like 6,000. Like they're still like they've been having some better shows. So it's ebbs and flows. But yeah, so if he beats Roddy, sorry I cut you off. Who would you have the big match? Let's not do Jericho rematch. Let's not do that.
Malachi Black.
Oh, okay.
Rebuilt them up because Malachi given his history and his start, he is going to go over huge in a UK crowd. You got two UK boys going at it. Let them go and let them have the crowd on fire, because the crowd will be just great for
What if he
them.
beats Edge though, and he's TNT? They might avoid that though, right? Like the two titles.
I don't know if he's going to beat Edge. I feel like
Okay.
something will happen that will keep Edge with the title just for a little bit longer. I don't see him beating Edge. If he does, then okay, we can switch it to somebody else. There's other people that Osprey can take on and look strong against. If you get a healthy Penta or Ray Phoenix, if they're healthy, they will both be great against him. Pac would be another
Paul,
one that
I'm
would send people
yeah.
just screaming.
I think that's the bandwagon I'm on. I would be on, like, heat Pac back up as a heel too, because he's more babyface, but heat him back up. Pac and Osprey at Wembley that'd be a moment. That'd be no, Brett wasn't British, of course, but that I feel like that could be like Brett Bulldog, where it's like this really special moment. It's like UK had adopted Brett, right? Because he was Canadian, so
Yeah.
like he was. But that's a good one. Okay, I'm just looking at the roster right now. Joe's always an option because, like, they'll give Joe a big match. I think Penta would happen, but I don't know if at Wembley. I think they'll give it to one of the bigger stars. I wish it'd be too much close to New Japan, but if Okada didn't have that other title, I feel like they could have done that too. Okada and him. They were hinting at Jay White as well in that Battle Royal or that casino. It was, what was it? A casino? Gosh, what was the match? I can't remember the name of it, but I really enjoyed that match when they had. That's how Osprey got the win, where it was like
Yeah.
a battle royal, Royal Rumble, but it's like guys kept coming in. Esposito does make a good point.
The
And that-
Casino Battle Royal is what they call it.
oh, is it just battle royal? Okay, even though it's by pinfall. Oh, Casino Gauntlet. It was the Gauntlet match this time around. Yeah, and that was by pin, and I really like that. Like, that's the one thing. Malachi isn't losing. That's true. We'll see. He should be losing to. Well, I guess we'll find out about Copeland, but. Too bad Cole wasn't healthy too. Osprey and Cole would be another really good one because I feel like you could have some fun dynamic there. But yeah, I'm interested. Same thing with Swerve. Like, I'm interested who they pair Swerve up with. I think I do agree with people. They might run Swerve and Hangman back there because that's such a blood feud. They could have heat
yes,
Hangman.
please.
Yeah, they
Yes,
could heat Hangman up and just like I think that's the route you go. And then yeah, Osprey and somebody. You're gonna get a match. I think you're just hell. You could even what? I could see them even doing Osprey and Adam Copeland there. I wouldn't put it past them because that's like a big dream match, right? And Adam keeps saying that he wants to work Will, so why not at Wembley? Maybe that's the one time because poor Adam Copeland, man. He wants to be a heel. He tried doing WWE. The crowd did not want it. And I said that at the time it happens, like, dude, you were gone for 7 years. We're never going to boo you. You're one of our favorite. We're never going to boo you. But in Wembley, that could be the time where he could play up those heelisms. He could, like, that crowd, because that crowd's not going to be going for him. It's going to be going for Osprey. So he could, like, for a night, be the real Radar superstar. And there could be some fun there. I don't think it'd be Christian because he's going to lose to Swerve, and I think that's a really fun matchup, Swerve and Christian. I think Christian always delivers. He's going to cut some really good promos. Christian's going to find somebody that's dead in Swerve's family, and he's going to go after him. And I completely forgot, like, again, when people say they don't tell stories sometimes, like AEW, I think they're doing a better job of it lately, to tie it back. And it's perfect because Swerve lately has been, hey, I've done some bad things and I got to, change my ways. He was cheating less. For them to tie it back to, hey, 6 months ago, Swerve to, like, get under someone's skin, broke into a guy's gym and just messed him up. And for Christian to be like, hey, here's your comeback, here's penance for it. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
This is perfect. Like, this is great. So I think they have, like, a good story there. Nick Wayne and people can bump for, like, Swerve can fight Nick Wayne and Kill Switch. Like, there's some, like, heaters for him to fight. So I like that. Where are you now on? We had Jack Perry come back. We had him beat up TK, which be like, oh my God, he took a bad bump. Everyone, please go look at Vince McMahon's first stunner. Please go like these people don't take good bumps. Like, it's not like this is history, but like we're doing of course, Bischoff, we're doing like a very similar NWO takeover, but you got the new elite. They took out TK. He can't travel. Doesn't look like
New
Kenny's
entrance.
gonna, new entrance. Doesn't look like Kenny's gonna be the new GM. So maybe it'll be someone else. But where are you so far on the elite takeover storyline? Are you the pro or con or somewhere in the middle?
Right now, I'm pro. I want to see where it goes, but right now I'm pro because I've liked their heel stuff, and I like their heel stuff because it's opposite of the heel stuff that I'm used to. I loved the Young Bucks in New Japan. I was a huge Bullet Club fan, and so but they were more childish heels there.
Yes.
Where here,
Schoolyard bullies, the
yeah,
annoying pricks. Yeah.
where here they're more methodical heels, and I like it. I like the whole them setting themselves up to be the guys who need to be taken down. Like who's going to rally to take down the elite? And as they're adding people and they're adding Jack Perry, and I have a feeling they're going to add one or two more because if Bullet Club has taught me anything, there's never enough members.
No, never.
Then who's going to be the force that takes down this group? That being said, though, there's not a lot of strong factions in AEW that can. Most of their factions are heel factions. You've got Bullet Club Gold, you've got the Don Callis family, which to this day does not make sense to me.
Yeah, and shout out to Will Hobbs. That sucks. He's got injured on his knee and he's out for a while. I knew it when I watched that match because like you can tell, not all the time, some are great, but like you could tell the way he couldn't put pressure on that knee. It's like, oh, my man's fucked up, and that sucks. So
yeah, but people around Don Callis get injured. It keeps happening. So I do feel bad for the Don Callis family. Let's see, we've got House of Black. Most of the factions are heel factions. So
there's one though you didn't mention though.
Blackpool Combat Club.
That's probably the
could
answer,
be
right?
the all conquering. And I could see you do it in a situation where they're all conquering, but not because, hey, we want to take back AEW because it's what's right. It's just a simple, we don't like you.
Yeah.
And I could see Daniel Bryan leading the we don't like you.
Yeah, and you can also do the like we're not taking back AEW, but we're what AEW like represents, like the hard nosed wrestling. Like it's not about taking over the entrance or like the opening. It's not about the pyro. It's like we're here to wrestle. And like most people think like John Moxley is like the ace of AEW, so you can kind of have him there. So I think that's the route. I think I don't know how we do, but I think one way or another, this is how we get Edge and Christian back together to fight the Bucks. So I don't know if you maybe have Edge, because like Edge did do that Raw AEW speech, so you could have him start something up. Like imagine like him, Christian, Garcia, like you could have Copeland, like he could be a good leader for that, and that gets him to verse the Bucks. That gets him verse Okada. That gets him to verse like he didn't have Jack Perry on his list, but still like they can work together. So I think Copeland could do something.
Here's how I could see it: you put Cesaro versus Okada for that Continental Championship. The Elite cheat. They come out and then they just start trying to take out Cesaro or Claudio. So that sets up the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite. And that gives you Claudio's reason for being in there. Hey, I can out wrestle you. I know I can out wrestle you. You had to cheat to win.
Yeah.
Mox is in there because Mox likes to fight, and Mox can do his whole I've been the heart of AEW. Yeah. When you guys were jacking around, when you were off trying to play EVP, I was here holding it down.
I'm the one on vacation because of you guys.
Yeah, I'm the one who conquered the person you couldn't take down.
Yeah,
with an allusion to CM Punk without having to mention CM Punk, and then Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson can just simply say, "I don't like you. Yeah. I don't like you, Okada. I don't like you, Bucks. I can out wrestle you. I am better than you. Everyone knows I'm better than you, and I'm about to prove you can't beat me." And that is the perfect way to set up that group. You'll need to add one more person. I don't know what the status is on Wheeler Yuta right now. I know he was hurt for a minute. I don't know how
Yeah.
soon he's going to come back, but he can be the fourth to Jack Perry, and that could be your big faction versus big faction.
Well, you could always, and to your point too, they might just add more people. So you could need more people. The two people, I already mentioned them, but is Garcia, because they already were trying to maybe recruit him once, right? And this could be where he finally joins the BCC. Him and Yuta put their differences aside, because as much as they're fine doing the things, I would not mind Bull Club Gold joining the Elite and having shit, because like they've the same way that Cody and AJ didn't touch enough on the Bullet Club stuff. They've not touched enough on the Bullet Club stuff with Jay White. I thought for sure when Jay White got there and Kenny was healthy, they're gonna do all run back us. Like they had them attack Kenny backstage. Like I felt like it was very minor, and I felt like you could really pull up the like the leadership went from Kenny to Jay, like that, like
Yeah.
there what like it was Tama Tonga for like a couple months, but it didn't really work out. Like he
Bullet
was
Club
not,
is fine.
yeah, right. It went from Kenny to Cody for a bit, back to Kenny to Tama for like a little bit, and then Jay. Like there was so much story there, so I think I would like if Jay got back into the Elite Bullet Club stuff to hit on the history. There's New Japan stuff. I think the other person you could always add that equation is Eddie Kingston, because he's Moxley's BFF and he earned Bryan's respect, right? So he's another person, and he's another like heart of AEW guy. He's the I broke my bones here. I'll do anything for this company. Technically, another guy you could add is like a Darby when he's healthy, because like Darby said like he's never gonna work anywhere else. And also, if you do my equation of adding the Bull Club Gold, they're the ones that took Darby out, right? So you could you could do something. So and that's where I'm with you. Like I'm positive right now. I'm going to let it play out. The GM thing has been done many times. When people say they're copying WWE, WWE was not even the first one to do it. It was WCW. Like, that's where it's just like the tribalism wars is just like, you got to look back. Like, WWE, like, copied them. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
it's an easy story to do. For me, I'm all about, let's see where it goes. The footage, we talked about there was pros and cons. I still was in the fact that I'm 50-50 on it. And the fact that I think have actually used it in a good way to get Jack Perry back, it's made sense. Because since Jack Perry came back, he alluded to like some like the jacket and New Japan stuff, but like they've not talked about Punk. What they've made the issue is Jack Perry is mad at Tony Khan. When he did that return promo where they attacked TK, there was not a single CM Punk reference shot, anything. So like, I think for me in the long run, one, the footage didn't kill AEW. They popped a rating, and then the ratings have been back and forth. So it's like they're the same they are. I agree with you with the Harvey Weinstein stuff. It's tough because like, is some of that true? Of course, WWE as a whole is gonna get sued at some point, not just Vince. Like,
Yeah.
there's other shady people in that company, but like, unfortunately, that's every company. That's the NFL. He fucking has Ric Flair on his roster who's had some alleged stuff, right? Like, it's tough for any of those big companies to throw stones because, like, we talk about all the time in comic book stuff. Marvel, DC, Star Wars, they all have skeletons in their closet. You can't do the, like, whataboutism because, like, all of them are tough. I get what he's trying to do. He should have just talked up AW in that moment. I'm fine with shots, but I think those shots there is a line. I'm not saying that because I'm not the person who's offended of like, no, they're a better company. No, I guarantee there's still people in that company that knew shit was going on with Vince. I'm not going to play the, whoa, WWE, they're all clean now. No, there's a chance in 6 months we could be talking about how Triple H has been let go because he got a text and he knew something, right? Like, and I'm not trying to say it, but it's like, we don't know what happens with these people's lives. Like, Nick Khan could be gone. So it's like, it's not like an unfair comparison, but it is like a tough thing to say in the mainstream. But for the storyline, I'm all down because guess what? It created buzz. People were talking about it, good or indifferent, and that's what AEW has to create buzz and also do the good matches. They got the good matches down for the most part. The buzz can be questionable, but it's the same thing I always say about, I've said this on podcasts for years about Rotten Tomatoes. People complain about Rotten Tomatoes. They're usually the people that are like tweeting about it the most or talking about it the most. If you don't care, don't watch. And same thing with AEW. If you think TK, all this stuff really sucks, then just move on. But they don't. And every time you send a tweet about AEW, you complain about it, you help them in the SEO. You spread them around. Like you get the word out there, right? So the better way is like when I start watching WWE, I just would never tweet WWE. I would just tweet about a match or wrestler, but I would not tweet about the brands because you still help them. They're still trending based on my tweet, right?
They're getting that engagement somehow, some way. So
yes. So just
don't put them in your
yeah.
mouth.
But I think that's the thing with AEW, that there's still enough good stuff that people want to watch. And I'm not saying AEW is perfect, but a Double or Nothing I'm excited for. We're not going to go over the quick card. They got Will Nightingale versus Mercedes Moné. Monet has been a whole other thing. I think they should not have brought her in when she hasn't been cleared. I think that was a fumble. They got Strong versus Ospreay, like we talked about. Tony Storm versus Deeb, which is like a weird route we're going, because I feel like every month they have Tony Storm. I guess she's just a tweener, because sometimes she's versing a heel, sometimes she's versing a babyface. I don't know. And then, like we talked about, Swerve and Cage. So already with those 4 matches, I'm like, that's going to be, because at least Monet and Willow's going to be. It's going to be a good one, and I think Monet is going to get the win there by some foul play or something. So,
yeah. Right now they're set up with good matches, but not great storyline, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For this pay-per-view, I still think that there are going to be good matches. I'm excited to see over the next couple of weeks what they do to set up the rest of the matches. I mean, because we're going to need more. I have a feeling Okada will be added to this somehow, some way, or tag team championships are going to need to be added.
Yeah.
Things like that. You've got so many belts, and right now you have the world, the women's, and the TBS championship locked in. So we're going to need to find out what happens with the unified trios, Okada's Continental, and things like that. So and that's one of the problems with AEW is they have so many belts.
Oh yeah,
so many belts.
Always an issue.
The only one I don't want to see is I don't want to see the FTW championship. Please don't.
Well, you'll get that. You'll get that. Here's my pitch too. If Ospreay versus Okada, Copeland, or Malachi Black, please have them have on the belts and do like a unification of something. Like, let's get rid of some of the like put the. I know they just did the Triple Crown content. There is too many. I agree with you. There is a less of importance. Like, they gotta get rid of some of those. But I at least do think Cage and Swerve, they'll create a good story. I think both of them can talk good enough that by the time you get there, you'll want to see the fight. The other matches, I agree that the stories so far have been meh, but at least with Cage, we just got it. Even little stuff of like Killshot ripping his dread out, and now Cage is like keeping his dread. I always trust in Christian to get a good story. Like, he will make something worthwhile. It's an easy defense, but like it's kind of like the AJ Cody thing. It's like you kind of want that for the first one, right? I know he did just beat Claudio, but for pay-per-view, it's like I wouldn't expect us to think, oh, Swerve's gonna lose it here, and Christian's like he's always a good bad guy to put in that spot. So
yeah.
All right, so quickly, our last thing, we'll go over our last topic here, which was our 10 favorite matches. At least I put them that way. If you have them as best, you can talk about your credence or whatever your qualifications were. But yeah, we did this because S-Bubs, he's watching through some now, so check out his Twitter. He has a list of some. But yeah, because I hadn't done this in a while, and I still think I need to, like, in a year, us revisit this, because there was a couple I was like, oh, I should rewatch some of these to come back to. But I'll let you go first. Just go from your 10 to 1, a little quick fact of why they're there. If you got any honorable mentions, you shout those out. And also, what is like the qualifications for the match? Is that because everyone lists are gonna be different for like personal best stuff. So what gets you to the 10 for you?
All right, so the 10 is based off of the match itself, match quality, how it made me feel, and the lead up / aftermath of it, because those play a part into it. So I'll start with my number 10 is the Young Bucks versus Hangman and Omega from Revolution 2020. That tag match, that lead up was amazing. Hangman and Omega were amazing as a team. The whole feeling before and during the match of all of these guys just being good friends, but how are we going to make this work, and what's all on the line for the tag team championship, that puts so much of a story element into it. And even afterwards, continuing with Hangman and his drunken downfall and everything else, it was good storytelling and just good pure wrestling match. Like, all those men had time to showcase, and that was one of Hangman had his good match against Jericho, and then after that, this was a good way to continue to show why AEW was putting their trust in Hangman. And so that was great. Number 9, I have Omega versus Hangman from Full Gear 2021. I am partially upset at this match because I lived in St. Louis at the time, and it was a very strong possibility we were getting Full Gear 2021
Oh, no.
because we had a show that was derailed by the pandemic. And then they were like, hey, we're coming back, but they did not say when. And everyone's like, oh, it's looking like it's going to be Full Gear. We ended up coming back right before Full Gear because I went and saw a Rampage taping. And now I did get to see CM Punk and Eddie Kingston have a pull apart brawl / go back and forth on the mic because of it. But that's when Tony Khan came out and was like, St. Louis, I love you. I'm going to give you a pay-per-view. Took him 2.5 years
Yeah,
to finally deliver on that. But Omega versus Hangman was great. I loved Hangman's entrance in that match with the horse going through the empty city. Everything about that was just great. Number 8, and this is going to surprise people where it's at on the list, is Taker versus HBK from WrestleMania 25.
Oh,
I
my
love that.
God.
I love that match, and I love the build-up.
Oh, my God. Whoa.
But long-lasting feeling for me, yeah, it was a great match, and yeah, it had great moments, but just long-lasting feeling for me, it's one of those where I know it's a great one, but I don't have the urge to go back and continue to watch it just to watch it.
Wow. Jeez Louise.
Number 7
that was a
is Bucks versus Penta and Ray from All Out 2021. That was just an amazing tag team match, and Penta's face and mask and ripped through that and just everything else. I mean, those guys put it all on the line, and I was here for it for a tag team match. Yeah. Let's see. Number 6 is Ospreay versus Omega from Forbidden Door 2023. Everything from the entrances, the build up, the whole rematch, everything else, the I can beat you. Everything about that just seemed strong, and I loved it. I loved the way that Ospreay was presented. I loved Omega coming out there. They put on a strong, consistent match. Number 5, Sasha versus Bayley, Takeover Brooklyn. I mean, that was, in my mind, if you want to ask me for a women's showcase match, that is immediately what pops into my head. There's some others down the line, Charlotte versus Rhea, or Britt Baker's lights out match versus
Thunder
Rosa.
Yeah.
Like those are good, but this is the one that instantly pops out in my mind. The build up to that, the friendship of that, the fallout of that, the Bayley superfan crying during that, everything about that was just like they made that match everything. And it is hard to find a flaw within the match itself. Number 4, Styles, Joe, Bryan Danielson, TNA Unbreakable.
Christopher Daniels.
Those guys just went. They just put on an amazing match. And it is something that TNA was like, all right, we got some good people, but TNA wasn't getting that shine. This one made people go back and search out a TNA match.
Yes.
Going, I have to watch this. And so, yeah, that one gets points for me. Like, I could go back and watch that and still think, man, these guys are doing it. Number 3, Ospreay versus Danielson. I mean, there may be some recency bias in there, but that was just an amazing match. The promos leading up to that match, Ospreay's just his love and his feeling. Bryan Danielson talked about dying in the ring. Just everything about that was great. Number 2, Rock versus Austin, WrestleMania 17.
Yeah.
I mean, the build up to that, the promo, the video package, man, I will still go back and this ain't about Deborah. Like, everything about that was just great.
I need to beat you, Rock.
Yeah. The turn of Austin, the handshake, yes. It was a thing that Austin says to this day. If he could go back, he'd call an audible on the fly and stunner him. But it's still, in that moment, the shock of it. And I remember I was in high school when this happened, and I was just sitting there in my living room. This is back when me and my grandfather still used to watch all the pay-per-views. He was shocked. I was shocked. And we're both just sitting there, hands on heads, like, what happened?
Yeah,
Like, that
same.
left just a lasting memory. And if someone were to ask me what is one of your most memorable wrestling moments, that is it. That shocked the hell out of me.
As an 8 year
And
old, I could like not process what was going on because I was so young, and you're just like your two favorites, and then, like the Vince thing. I was like, I had no idea, no idea.
Rock selling the stunners, just every time that they would wrestle, it just got progressively worse. It was great. Like, I liked their WrestleMania 19 match, the Ride Off in the Sunset and everything else for the feeling
Yeah,
that it had, but 17 is just so much better, and everything about that just it was just greatness.
15 always everybody's last slot. You know, it's a good match, but at 15's always like the like it was a good
Yeah,
good
like
kickoff.
they
But yeah,
they proved that they've got good chemistry, they've got a good match, but man, 17 and 19 are
yeah,
just
19's
pure
yeah,
greatness.
I don't have 19 when I top 10. 19's like a different type of good. It's
Yeah.
like a slow movie type of good, where especially that last half where it's just, or the last 5 minutes where it's just The Rock beating on Stone Cold and he has like nothing left, and like he does like three hard rock bombs in a row. It's like it's a really good. I'm happy he came back for KO as well, but like it's a really good send off to that feud.
Yeah.
And
The one more ride on the vest, like the OMR,
yeah,
just
yeah.
knowing that.
Rock puts it on and everything. Like
Yeah.
peak Hollywood Rock. Like yeah.
Rock pushing away Hebner at the end, like, no, we're gonna have a moment,
Yeah.
just him and I at the end. So everything about, yeah. But 17 just tops that for me. 19 was great, but the 17 tops me for everything
I agree.
about that.
Yeah.
Number one, I'm going to slightly cheat, but then narrow it down. Number one is the Okada Omega trilogy, but
Oh,
more
yeah.
specifically their second Wrestle Kingdom match. Like, that was it. Dominion was great too, but their finale at Wrestle Kingdom was just pure art. And
Or no, I think it's the other way. You have the other way around. The finale was at Dominion, and then the first is at. Are you talking about when Kenny won?
no,
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, so you're talking about the first match, right? At the when the G1 Kenny.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. We're on I understand.
So that their Wrestle Kingdom match stood out more. Now
Yeah.
the Dominion match was great, but the feeling going into the Wrestle Kingdom match, the build to that was Kenny's ascension,
Yeah.
and having Kenny's ascension versus, and at the time, King of the Mountain Okada. And looking back, like, how did Kenny go from the light heavyweight cleaner to
Yeah.
this guy? And that put Kenny on the map for me. So that is where the emotional aspect holds it for me, because that's what put Kenny on the map for me. Their whole trilogy as a whole was just filled with classics.
Oh yeah.
But this ramped them up, and this established, okay, Kenny's that guy. He is going to be here for years to come. And Okada was just Okada. He came, he did his thing, and he proved why he was the new ace of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And so their match was just amazing. But their trilogy as a whole, I would just put as my top, because those guys gave it all. Every match was hard hitting. Their crowd spots, Kenny diving to the outside, because they had the hard concrete. They had the tables that don't break. I mean, it was just, they went for gold every single time. So yeah, that's my top 10.
Yeah, they're tied. Remember, because they both won one, and then the one was a draw. So they still need that tiebreaker, which we will get one day. Is it going to be New Japan level? I don't know. They're both older and they've been through some stuff. So I don't know. There's part of me that, like, I know everyone wants the 4, and I do as well, but there is part of me of like, I trust them, but there is almost like a magic to leaving it tied, but I can see why you'd want to at least one more time. But yeah. All right, so I got a couple honorable mentions. So there's other matches I didn't show. We'll probably do like another top 10 one day, like stuff like TLC 2001 or Taker Mankind, Hell in the Cell, where it's like, technically they'd be in a top 10, but like they don't have the match quality, but because they're so iconic. So maybe we'll do like a top stip matches or something like that, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of those like Cactus Jack and Triple H from the Rumble, right? Where it's like because I usually never put too many weapons matches in my top 10s, because I like just the one. I think younger I did, but I like some usage of weapons, but I like one-on-one. There's rules, and there we go. I This was tough. The bottom half for me, I had some questions. Like, obviously, got to give the honorable shout out to Rock and Hogan, but again, that's like a moments match. One that these are the two that was the hardest for me not to put
The
on.
double turn.
Yeah, it was that one. And then talking about another double turn, Brett and Austin 13. That was tough for me not to put on, because I really wanted to, but I didn't. And then another one that was probably the toughest, I would have to put it as 11 for me, is Bianca and Sasha, because I love that match for Mania. I think I always say there is an asterisk on night one, but if you take that away, I could make an argument for that being the best WrestleMania main event match, like quality wise. I think they delivered. There's multiple moments in that match, whether it's the crowd or them or just overall, like that was one of those where it's like Ospreay and Bryan, where it's like, you guys got to have something great, you got to be special, and they were. So for me, that's like 11. That's why the back half I need to rewatch, because there's somewhere it's like, oh, it's tough. So
When we were talking about Jade Cargill yesterday, my girlfriend and I referenced that Bianca match, because I'm like, it's like her partner is also super strong. And I referenced the walking up the steps and just the hard hitting of that and everything else. So yeah, that match was incredible.
And that was good, because in NXT, Bianca used to use her hair as a weapon, and on the main roster, she never did until that match. They saved it for like over a year, and then that whip that she gives
That
Sasha,
crack.
yeah, like it. That's what I mean. Like, it has those moments where I think years from now, people will go back and talk about it. And the other one, legitimately, if the finish would have been different, would have been Cody and Roman from 39, because I think Roman winning was a mistake, as we've heard. Roman and Paul apparently this week were like came out that they thought it should go a different route, and it's just kind of funny if Rock and Roman never happens because of that. But I think they had a really high quality WrestleMania main event. I think they had good chemistry. This year was a fun one, but that was like the big brawl and stuff and everything.
Yeah.
So the back half was tough. But so I have number 10, Cody and Dustin. I loved that match. That for me is what really put AEW on the map, because one, it was like we were seeing blood to a high degree again on North American wrestling. So that was big, but it was the story. When you talk about wrestling matches that are a story, that right there, and that was nothing. That was like, oh, we got Dustin and him and Cody are having a match. There was no build-up. They weren't on TV at that point. Not a bunch of promos, interviews back and forth. They did what they could with YouTube and history and a promo package, and they delivered. And that's the match that we all wanted in WWE. And we got that stupid Stardust Goldust match at Elimination Chamber that sucked. And I was like, oh, it's never going to happen. And that to me is just like, there's multiple images. Those images of them both just standing there in blood, and they hug after match. Like, there's just something about that, and probably just because like I am a big Cody guy. I don't have a brother, but I can imagine like I at least have a sister that I'm close to. Like, that bond, like what they would have went through, and like that was one of those, like, it's cheese, but like you could just feel Dusty in that arena. It was like, man, that's just like a special one to me, and that's where Cody's not maybe the most talented guy in the ring, but there's certain times he can be the best in the world given the right situation, and that was a day where he did it. Number 9, this one could climb. I need to watch it again. I got Ospreay and Omega from Wrestle Kingdom. The reason, and I will spoil it now, I don't have Rock and Austin 17. I agree with you that it is, but for me, the finishes of both those matches is like what hurts it for me, because I hate the Austin because it's such a good match, but like that brings it down. And for the Toronto one, I do think the rematch was the better match. I think that's one of the greatest, but I hate that Callis gets involved and they do like a screwy weapon finish, and especially because like it's weird. 2 minutes in the match, they throw Callis out, they eject him, and he comes back, and it's like, well, technically, Ospreay should just lose right here. So that's where it's like, for me, I think the Toronto match is better till the ending, so that's why I give the edge to Wrestle Kingdom. Also because that buildup of that press conference, all the shots Kenny was taking at him throughout the year, Ospreay getting in his face and just saying like, you don't know what the fuck I've been through. I had to watch my best friend's funeral on a TV screen. Like, it was great because I was full Omega, but Omega, like, and they play up that they hate each other. I don't think they really do, but Omega laid out and like let him like make him look like a shit heel, like make him look like, how could you say all this stuff? And it's one, when you talk about moments, I know I thought Omega was going to win that. I thought,
Yeah.
this is Omega's come back to New Japan to put over the new foreigner. Here we go. And when he won, I was in shock. I could not believe they got Omega the win. I was like, man, New Japan loves Omega. So that's why they're number 8. This is one I saw live, and it was a dream match when I was a kid. I was happy we got it. HBK and Kurt Angle from WrestleMania 21. That is a banger sleeper. I think that's Kurt Angle and Shawn at that era, like the peak in the 2000s. That's them at their peak at that moment. They were both great at multiple times, but they just delivered. I just remember some of those instances, that moonsault off the ring where it just fucking clocks Kurt in the face, that ankle lock so many times. And that's when Kurt really started to introduce the wrap around the legs on the ankle lock. And you just knew when he got it, it was over. But then Shawn was like slowly like moving, like, oh, he could get out. And they had Shawn tap. Again, talk about like endings where you thought wouldn't happen. The babyface usually never taps, and the like uber future Hall of Famer Shawn Michaels is tapping out. It's like they put over Kurt strong on that match. And that's something special. Number 7, I have Sasha and Bayley. I don't have much more to add because you kind of hit the nail on the head. Again, lots of these matches for me are about big moments, and I'll never forget that Bayley reaching for the ropes and Sasha just stomping the hell out of her hand. And it's not that women's wrestling wasn't great at that point, it was, but that was like, oh, they can have it, which they end up doing multiple times, but you can do a WrestleMania main event with women. And that was the most I think I'd ever heard a WWE crowd into women's wrestling. Yeah. NXT was starting to build, but that was like, this is louder than anything the men are doing around the year. You know, I wish that they did the rematch, which was the 30-minute Iron Woman match. I wish they didn't bow out and did a full Iron Man match. I wish they gave him the full 60. It didn't live up to that. But that first match, that's like, there's multiple people like AJ Lee and other people that start to, even Stratus and the Bells will say they kind of did, but I don't agree with that. Like, there's people that put them up, but if you want to look at a match that like started the women's like evolution or whatever it is, like that's the match. That's the match where it's like, okay, this is a changing of the game. So number 6, I got a different tag with the Bucks and Kenny. I got the Young Bucks versus the Golden Lovers. That was coming off the title win. That was coming off that build up, that like 3-year build up for Coda and Kenny getting back together. Like him winning the title, the hug, Cody turning on him, like everything. That Bullet Club, Kenny, Cody, Bullet Club was fine. Yeah, that Bullet to me is peak Bullet Club for me as far as drama. It was so good. And this was like that classic Kenny doesn't really want to do the match, and the ending where he's going to go for the finish and he won't do it, and Matt's just like, do it, like hit me with it, and Kenny hits it and doesn't want to, and then after they form the Golden Elite, like that was special to me. That was so much stuff. It was like that's where wrestling's at its best. That's like real life. You have a guy who in storyline, he has the love of his life, but then his best friends who at the time don't like him. So it's like, what do? Do you go with your best friends or the love of your life? And it was like Kenny in the middle of this. It was just magical stuff.
Yeah.
I got Ospreay and Bryan at 5 right now. It could climb up, but I just put it there because it could go. It doesn't have the same story. It is just, hey, who's better right now, who is the best in the world right now. So it is a classic story, but what they did in the match made up for it. Again, that's a situation where everyone said, you guys got to deliver a 5-star, and that easily could have disappointed, because I feel like I like the matches, but I feel like that happened with Okada and Bryan, where everyone thought, oh, this is going to be an all-timer, and they never really got there. You know, those matches, they were good, but they never had that. Ospreay and Bryan, that was something special. It could climb, but I have to wait. I'm a sucker for these, so Iron Man, or at number 4, I got Bret and Shawn's Iron Man. I love Iron Man matches. I know some people don't, and it's funny because, like, I'm not a basketball guy. My whole thing against it is like, oh, they're always getting hoops. Like, it's like, until the very end, it doesn't matter about Iron Man matches, because I love the challenge, and especially because in the 80s, they did so many, going to hour matches. It got very rare in WWE to go, like, 40 minutes, Yeah. So, and if, like, there's been many greats. MJF and Bryan last year, they did a phenomenal job, but like Shawn and Bret is still the standard. They did so many great spots there. And again, that's like peak 90s Shawn, peak 90s Bret. I love Bret Hart. Bret Hart's just like, excellent execution. So I got that there. I got number 3 Omega and Okada, the Wrestle Kingdom, the first one. I don't I don't know why I don't have it higher. I think maybe the reason I might not is because I didn't see it live. That was the thing where I was not watching a bunch of stuff yet, and then later on, that's when I did hear the legend of Kenny Omega. So I think some of it hurts because like I saw a lot of the highlights before, and I knew the results. So it's like it was very much like not going through the motions, but it was like, okay, I know this, but it still is one of these things where for 2 years people had said this is the greatest match of all time, and I thought for sure when I watch it, I'm not gonna feel that way after the hype, seeing highlights, and then once I watched it, like it could be the greatest match. There is a difference where this is my favorite list. If we were to make a list of the best matches, just purely best, like take out moments, this could be number 1. Same way as like Bret and Hart or Bret and Austin, this might be in the top 10, but this is my favorite. So it's kind of like what David said, where there's some moments, how I felt at the time, wrestling. But as far as best, like that, this is to me still peak Kenny too, of like the bleached blonde hair, the cleaner but Terminator gimmick. He has the best gear. This is the best shape he's in too, because he is ripped and he's toned. Like he's both things. He's like he looks incredible.
He's lean enough to maneuver, but he's strong enough that he looks believable in a heavyweight match.
He looks like a comic book drawn villain. He does not even look real. Like it looks like, and the spots they do, the classic spot of Okada going for the Rainmaker, and Okada, like Kenny just like going limp, and he's just like so exhausted. Yeah, it's such a special match. At the time I thought, man, they should have had Kenny win it once I got there, but then when they did the win and they did the Golden Lovers reunion, I thought, no, they're right to hold off on that, and that was good. Number 2, this is definitely more, so it might be lower as far as quality of the matches, but this is definitely to like what David said to I agree moments. Punk and Cena at Money in the Bank. That was one of those, are they going to do it? Is it going to happen? Because if Cena wins that match, like I was talking about with the Cody Roman thing, if Cena wins that match, this match is not on my list at all. It's not even my top 50, because it's like, well, another LOL, Cena wins, Punk probably taps in Chicago, there you go. But that was a change in the guard. That saved my WWE fandom, because I was ready to stop watching. Punk cut that pipe bomb, and then when he won, it was like this, man, they're going to give him the ball. Did they? No. There's a whole bunch of issues that happen after, but that moment will always stand in time of, I just felt like no one believed he's not going to win. And the fact that his contract was actually up, like it was one of those things. It wasn't storyline. There was so much stuff, and Punk was my guy. Like I've said, like, see, like Undertaker brought me into wrestling. CM Punk saved my fandom, and then Omega introduced me to a whole new fandom. Like those are my 3 touchstones. And Punk, that was my guy. He was like, I owned every Punk shirt imaginable. I'm straight edge. Like all the things about Punk spoke to me. I'm the same like skinny fat where I cannot seem like big, but I've always got some like there's so much stuff there. So that was just such a moment for me as a fan. Like, man, and the match was really good too. That crowd, talk about electric crowds. That Chicago crowd that night it's something. It's a magical moment.
They were on fire.
Yeah, so it's just something I take back. And then now, because as you will imagine, my shocked when David said at number 8, my number 1's HBK and Taker. Another thing that I feel very fortunate, I was there live, and I think that adds to, because being there live, it was just
that feeling.
Yeah, that was. I still think for me that was probably, there's some NXT shows, there's a couple others, but like being there live was crazy, because I don't think anyone thought Shawn was going to beat the streak, but being there live for that last 10 minutes, you're like, man, they might do it. They like, and it was just, there's just moments too, and also being there live, having no commentary, when Taker takes that dive and lands on his head, you're like, man, like live, it was like, oh shit, like what's going on here? You can't really check your phone like to hear like scoopers or people be like, oh, it's good. Like, it's just, you're like, you're in the moment. And that was something, and that was a dream match at the time too, that I wanted for years. Cause I was younger when they did like the casket match at Rumble. Like I didn't appreciate Shawn and Taker as much as I did at that point, where I was like graduating out of high school and stuff. And that was something very special. Undertaker was my favorite guy. My sister's guy was Shawn Michaels. So that was another thing we were like back and forth. It was like, So yeah, that was again. Maybe if I wasn't there live, I still think it's a top tenner. But being there live, that put it up to a different degree because it felt so special. And yeah, Taker was my guy, and that was peak streak as well too. When the streak was as important, more important than a title too. That was and the entrances, Sean getting that mega like heaven entrance, like it was an event, and it was and truthfully, yeah, it killed the crowd. We weren't into the rest of the show after that. We didn't care about Triple Threat. We didn't care about the Hardys. We didn't care about Orton and Triple H. It was they blew their load, you know. So,
yeah. So it is a great match, and yeah, you're right. The feeling of being there versus watching it on
Changes it,
TV,
yeah.
like it definitely adds so much more to it. I know there have been matches that I've seen in person, and then going back and watching it on TV, I'm like, oh, TV's not doing this justice.
Yeah.
Like that crowd was hot for this. Like, how did you guys miss that?
Yeah. Or there's times where you go back, you're like, this is a 5-star in your brain, and then you're like, oh, okay, I see a botch there. Oh, I see it. Because sometimes you don't see that, right? But when you watch, like, okay, this is just the hype of the win, the moment, and stuff. So live always like can mess with you, but that's a good thing. That's why you go live, because like it's usually always a great time, you know.
Yeah, like Royal Rumble when Edge returned, and it was in St. Louis. Like, you know, that entire night the crowd was hot. People talk about the Edge pop, but that entire night the crowd was hot. But it doesn't really translate to TV as well. Like, you can see the reaction for the Edge shot. They really focus on the crowd for all that because they knew what was coming. But being there were so many spots where people were just like really enjoying, really going off and things like that. So like, I definitely can tell how just that feeling that those things give you.
Yeah, and yeah, like to your point, being there live, I was there live when the Hardys came back for that ladder match, and that pop is huge on TV, but in arena, even without a roof, like it was so loud, I couldn't hear anything. And even just little stuff like talking about Edge, when me and Emma went to Wrestle Dream, it's like a smaller crowd, but still, it was like on TV did not do justice of how loud Seattle was in the person, you know, because that's also a complaint at AEW for me. Like, I think they sometimes mic their crowds up really bad because sometimes we were there loud. It was loud, and it's like, oh yeah, it shows on TV, but
yeah. For that Hardy's return, I remember I had got a call from the girl that I was dating at the time, and I told her, I'm like, I'm watching WrestleMania right now, so I may or may not ask. She just happened to call, and I happened to ask. She's like, okay, this match is cool, ladder match, whatever. So she calls, and we're talking as interests are going, and I remember telling her, go, Hardy's just returned. I got to go. And she's like, what? I was like, I've got to go. And I just hung up. And she texts me, she goes, is everything okay? I go, the Hardy Boys just returned. She goes, the books? Like, you don't even understand.
No, you don't even know. That was such a good one. But, well, there you go.
I literally threw my phone across the room when they came back.
So that was one of those classic of like, it's rumored, but not 100%. They just were at ROH last night in a ladder match against the Bucks, you know?
Yeah,
so,
a banger of a match. Like, this wasn't a quick match. Like, they put their bodies on the line. I'm like, all right, they're somewhere at home resting.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, yeah. Nope, they were there. So, yeah, there you go. We've done it. We will be back either next month or the end of May because, yeah, we'll cover both Double or Nothing or King of Ring and see what's going on at the draft point, see the decisions as far as who are our kings and queens of the ring, see what other lawsuits or changes happen or firings and stuff, because there's always maybe the Wyatt Six will debut at that point. We didn't talk about that this time, but maybe we'll wait until then. But
did you see what I put in Discord about someone clicking on the video and looking at the source code? And the source code was the Roman numerals for 525, which people would think is May 25th. So
it would make sense. It's strange that they're gonna, if they bring him back in a Saudi crowd. I'm surprised about that, but I think they'll bring him back at a big pay-per-view. But I'm excited. I think they're doing a good job right now. They're getting people talking and. As we send our Discord, don't try and force them as heels. Let them just be cheered. People like lost these wrestlers that are rumored. People are gonna want to cheer both. They're gonna want to cheer in the memory of Bray. Don't force it because they're an evil, spooky group. Undertaker was an evil, spooky guy for the majority of his career, and he was a top babyface. Like, just run with him as babyface. You could turn him at any point in the future, but right now, ride all. It's like back in the day when Seth Rollins came back from his injury. Literally has a video of him high on drugs being like, when I come back and be world champion. Comes back, what does Vince want to do? Let's have him be a heel. It's like, no, man, like you gotta, like, you go with the wave. Go with the wave.
Just let them ride that. Let them ride the crowd response. And let them sell that merch from the crowd response and do everything else, because they are gonna make some money off of that. So just let it be that. Let the fans enjoy the fact that the spirit of Wyatt is there.
Yeah. So we'll be back. Maybe we'll be talking about that. Won't be boring. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a good one.